From the Smith Radio Studios, it's Carrie and Brian Smith. This is Smith Radio. You can tweet at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your host, Carrie and Brian Smith.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Smith Radio. Your host, Brian Smith and
Carrie Smith.
Giving you all late-breaking updates of last week, wrapping it all up, explaining it to you, showing you what you didn't hear, and telling you what you should have heard, including all the fake news. Sorry about that, folks. We're just last-minute tweeting out to everybody. If this is the first time you've been on the show, welcome, welcome, welcome. We've had a lot of new followers. Thank you very much. Crush the hearts, crush the share, crush the retweets if you're on Twitter. If you have problems, I just tweeted out the link. If you have issues on Periscope, which some people do, and there's technical reasons for that it was explained to me.
Yeah.
That even if you have full bars, that doesn't mean you necessarily can get in that much data. It's kind of like the difference between current and volts and
I'm laughing because
you know what I'm trying to
dad's
say.
An electrical engineer.
Do you know what I'm trying to say? You can't
right.
jam it down the if it's not available. And
right. It's like you got a giant pipe and the valve is open, but there's just no water coming through.
Right.
There's just no water in the pipe.
So it happens. So anyways, jump over to Vimeo.com/Smith Radio. You can check that out, watch the show there. And there's a conversation going on over there as well, having a lot of fun. Real quick, to get this out of the way, I've got a couple of 2019 calendars left. Ordered a few more in. We've got a couple of them left. And one of our great Patreons, Marcia. Thank you so much, Marcia. Marcia has been very, very gracious to us here at Smith Radio, and I just want to thank her very much. I offered, because she upped her Patreon account, thank you, and I offered her another calendar in thanks for that. And she told me she lives in a really high lib area.
Okay.
And if I want to give it away to somebody, we certainly could.
Okay.
So I'm just taking the opportunity. The first one today that jumps over to SmithTV.com, hit the Patreon, whatever is in your heart, whatever you've been blessed with to become a brand new Patreon of Smith Radio, you'll receive a brand new free 2019 calendar, tribute to Donald J. Trump, America and American Patriots. You'll absolutely love it. The folks who already got it, they love it. So
there you go.
With that being said, our guest is slated to be on like ASAP, so let's get the niceties out of the way real quick. Yep. Today's show is jam-packed. We have videos galore, sound bites galore. It breaks my heart every show that we don't get everything in.
We never do.
However,
because we have diarrhea of the mouth. Let's be honest.
How we were made fun of by another MAGA outlet for going 3 hours. Remember that back in the day?
I don't know. Made fun of, more like, what the heck is wrong with you people?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's something like that. So, but it's all fun and games, folks. But I'm going to stick to the new rules that we have for 2019. I've got the counter that I didn't even start that I'm supposed to start.
Oh, okay. Well, the timer's probably going to start when Scott Presler comes on.
Right. So I got the new timer. We're going to stick to the facts. We're going to stick to the subjects. And the subjects we're going to talk about, we're definitely going to talk about Donald Trump's economy. This thing is just rip-roaring and out of control. Why is it so awesome? If abortion makes you squeamish and uncomfortable,
sorry,
you're going to be so uncomfortable for this show.
I told Brian we got to play it.
And it's not because folks, you have to hear the truth and the facts, nothing but the truth. The facts and the truth to make you move, to get you to do something different.
And we may be preaching to the choir, but at some point we have to also encourage people to say, hey, those that are not part of the choir need to also hear this, see this, and whatever. So
right. We're going to talk about New York and Governor Cuomo the championing them being the first. We're the first and everyone follows. And let's make that not happen this time around. Virginia Governor. Yeah, we're going to talk about that goofball. Russia.
All over the news.
Yeah, Russia, and the OIG report is out, folks. There is definitely some. Well, not only is it new news. It's not really new news. but it's confirmed, and people are already confirming. People that have given testimony's been leaked, whether it be Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr, Lisa Page, Peter Stroke, all Fusion GPS, everybody who's testified, James Baker, their testimony's been leaked, and they've all confirmed what we all know to be a fact. So we're just going to run down some of that stuff real quick. And yes, CNN, God did choose Donald Trump as president of the United States of America. I just want to let you know.
Trying to trigger CNN.
We're gonna get to that.
Or the fans of CNN.
Yeah, definitely. Venezuela and Europe completely falling apart on Twitter. Americans on Twitter are screaming to Europe, watch these videos coming out of Venezuela because you're next if you don't stop.
That's right.
The election 2020, this was a big week. Everybody coming out of the gates. I mean,
well, it's that time. This is the time of the year prior to, not the year, but, the timeline that you have to announce your presidency or your candidacy. It has to happen now.
Right. They're doing it now. There's going to be a plethora of candidates to choose from. The Democrats, I'm even Kellyanne Conway in an interview, and I'll play that for you, too. She, with a big smirk on her face and a grin and just excited.
A smirk? That's a face crime, people.
Yeah. When she was talking about the Democrats that are running, she gave a face smirk. And yes, you could be triggered by it.
Or arrested.
Very, very possible. Very possible. Border wall. We'll talk about that. There are some relevant things that are coming up. Some things that I didn't know that came up this week that we now know for a fact. We'll get into the details of what Trump can and cannot do. The voter fraud, it's now coming out, and people are being arrested for it. We're going to get into that. And if we've got time, Vegas shooting.
Oh, okay. By the way, I used to be the lead on that until I came to my conclusion, in which case people were like, well, I got to go find somebody else to get my news from Las Vegas from. And so news out of Las Vegas.
Yeah, the report's done. The thing is complete, and the conclusions
will shock you.
Yes. Okay. Yes, definitely. So just to start off real quick, everybody, wherever you live in America, enjoy this gorgeous day from us to you, Cincinnati, 66-degree weather, beautiful sunshine. It is just, you couldn't have prayed enough for a day like this. So enjoy it. If you don't have great weather that we're having, Donald Trump tweeted out, in the beautiful Midwest, wind chills, this was earlier this week, wind chills temperatures are reaching minus 60 degrees, the coldest ever recorded. In coming days, expect to get even colder. People can't last outside even for minutes. What the hell is going on with global warming? Please come back fast. We need you. And this beautiful Sunday, oh my goodness, Donald Trump made it happen again. I mean, Donald Trump made it happen again. But anyways, without further ado, the doorbell ring lets us know that our very special guest is with us. Scott Presler, how are you doing, buddy? Welcome to Smith Radio.
Thank you. I'm free. I'm officially a free man, and just an hour ago, I was unsuspended from Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for those of you who didn't know, right, when did your suspension happen?
It happened 7 days ago, an entire week of no tweeting.
I almost feel like the freedom happens when you don't have to be strapped to the device because of Twitter. So you almost get a vacation from Twitter for a moment there. What was the reason?
So you guys know I tweet a lot about illegal immigration, and I talk about true factual stories and statistics. You know, like Corporal Ranil Singh, who was murdered by a criminal illegal alien in California, and Kate Steinle and Molly Tibbetts. All I do is share stories of Americans that have been murdered, and apparently that's enough to get you booted off of Twitter.
Oh, that's not good. Did they give you a chance to delete a tweet in order to be unsuspended, or did they just say you're out for 7 days?
They made me delete the tweets before my 7-day suspension could even begin.
Oh,
so did you know? So did you know that you were going to serve 7 days and delete it, or did you delete it and then find out after the deletion you got 7 days?
I knew what was going to happen before I deleted the tweets, which were factual and completely true. So
there wasn't like any kind of an additional information in there that might have been bigoted in any way, shape, or form? Not even construed as?
To give you an example, Carrie, is one of the tweets that I said was criminal illegal aliens are murdering people of color. True.
Mm-hmm.
And I it off by saying Democrats choose illegal aliens over Americans. So to give you an example of the kind of language I was using, which, isn't bigoted, isn't hateful, yet this fell under their hateful conduct policy on their terms of use.
Oh, gosh, that's just terrible. Is this the first time you've been suspended? Nope, we got a frozen screen.
Oh, we got a suspension.
Oh, we got suspended animation.
This is actually the first time I was suspended for only 12 hours. And again, it was a tweet concerning illegal immigration. So clearly my messaging is resonating with people, and my messaging is making Twitter fearful of what I have to say. So they want to shut me down. They want to silence me. They want to bully me. They want to intimidate me from speaking out against the crime of illegal immigration.
Yeah, when you pull up, I don't know if you folks know, if there are people that listen to the show that aren't on Twitter, don't do Periscope, have no idea that Periscope even exists. But for those of you who don't know, when you pull the Periscope app up, it's like Facebook Live, but for Twitter. So when you pull the Periscope app up, it says, while it's loading, it says made by immigrants.
Something to that effect.
It says made by immigrants right there on the front of Periscope.
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny, guys, because what they try to do is they try to conflate immigrant with illegal immigration. And I want to say it loud and clear. I'm not anti-immigrant. My family came to America via immigration. I am an immigrant for all intents and purposes. I'm anti-illegal immigration.
Right.
I'm anti-people with the law to come into our country unlawfully. So, it doesn't really bother me that Periscope has made by immigrants on there, but I know what they're trying to do.
Yes.
They're trying to stir the pot and stoke the flames to make conservatives all angry. Babe, we're not mad at immigrants. We're mad at people coming into our country illegally that then hurt our people, like Kate Steinle, Molly Tibbetts, and thousands of others.
And Donald Trump's approval, or his approval numbers with the Hispanic community doubling, tripling. Some of the numbers have it from 15% all the way up to 50%. It's just, they get it. They get it. The inner city folks, low income individuals, minorities who have been kept down for so many decades, they understand. Even Cesar Chavez out there in California, where they put up the memorial and they have Cesar Chavez Day. Even the immigrants out there understood that Cesar Chavez knew that illegal immigration would absolutely destroy union wages and legal immigration, illegal immigrants' wages as well. So they can hang their hat on that all they want. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we've seen it throughout history. This is nothing new. Look no further than the Roman Empire. I just want people to understand that history repeats itself, and look at even the Native American community. You want to talk about people who are in poverty. It's something like 75% of all Native American children are born into poverty. And I don't want the same fate that has been suffered by the Native American community to continue to our children. And I say these statistics all the time. There are 3.6 million Black children in poverty, 4 million Hispanic children in poverty, and 4.2 million white children in poverty. My question is truly to all Americans, to everybody that's listening to this, How can we possibly say we care about Black, white, and Hispanic American children while we have poverty-stricken families in our country, while illegal aliens are taken care of first? My allegiance is to us. My allegiance is to our people, and not a penny of our money should be going to non-citizens, period.
What are you trying to persuade? Because you're very persuasive. You have this is just great communication that you're getting out to everybody. What is it that you're trying to exactly persuade people to get behind? Is it the wall? Is it just regular immigration reform? Is it drones in the sky along the southern border? I mean, what exactly are you envisioning, and what are you trying to get people to get on board with?
Well, we have to realize that, it's going to be difficult to get people to go straight from walking away from the Democrat Party into building a wall. Everything is all nuanced and it's subtle. So the first thing that I do is I'm here to wake up people to the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party, that when they chant Black Lives Matter, well, the Democrat Party doesn't actually believe Black Lives Matter if they choose illegal aliens over the Black community. So step number one is waking people up, having them swallow the red pill. Ultimately, yes, I am a proponent of the wall. Yes, I would like to see us have a secure border. I would like to see more ICE agents. I would like to see immigration reform, making sure that we are removing the diversity visa lottery and ending chain migration. I want comprehensive immigration reform that includes all of these different things like E-Verify, like making sure that companies are not employing non-citizens and that Americans are getting jobs first. But first, it begins with exposing people and waking them up to why the Democrat Party means illegals first, Americans last. And then once we have woken them up, then we can get into other forms of immigration reform.
Very well said.
Is there? I know for the folks that are on the show, I know they all know that they can follow you on Twitter at Scott Presler. It's right underneath his picture on the screen at Scott Presler. The persistence. Scott Presler. His name is the Persistence on Twitter. Is there somewhere that do you have a website? Do you have other play? I know I caught up with you on Instagram.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Parler, Facebook, Twitter. I do have my own website. I don't really honestly have the time right now. It's scottpresler.org in case I get permanently banned from Twitter and Facebook and every other big tech company out there. But no, right now I'm going to continue to watch my diction and what I say because I need to stick around. On Twitter, I have a very large platform, and this isn't the hill to die on. I'm going to play by the rules because ultimately I want to engage my 263,000 followers to become activists going into 2020. So I'm going to play this smart and strategically and not shoot myself in the foot and get myself banned.
Do you think that the language you used could be construed by Twitter to sound like you're talking about each and every single illegal immigrant when you're talking about the crime that is committed by the criminals? I mean, some people say, well, they're all criminals because they jumped over the border or they immigrated illegally or whatever. But I mean, what I mean, additional crimes such as, your rapes, your murders and all that kind of stuff. You have to add an additional word in a tweet in order to distinguish between all immigrants and the immigrants that are actually committing the crime. Because it seems like, and by the way, illegal immigrants, it sounds like Twitter is fully open to illegal immigration. And so when you talk about criminals, if you refer to the ones that are doing the murdering to mean all of them, they're definitely going to suspend you for 7 days, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's what I think their modus operandi is. I think that they're...
We lost him a little bit. You there, Scott? Scott, could you repeat?
Under the hateful conduct policy, you talk about a group of people as whole. So,
well, we got a bad connection here. I'm really sorry about that, folks. Scott, you still there? We just lost your entire answer. It was really jumbled. It was totally jumbled. So could you repeat that?
Yeah, I was just saying, I think Carrie's exactly correct that when I say criminal illegal aliens, are murdering people of color, for example, which is true, they may take it to mean, like Carrie just said, that I'm saying all criminal illegal aliens as a whole are murdering people of color. And that's, I think, why they got me suspended.
So it's like a very careful usage of each and every word. They're going to be dissecting every single word.
And when you say be careful so that you can keep your platform, something in me, I got this thing in me that I'm always, Carrie knows, I'm always fighting the system.
Yeah.
Like the Duke boys, always fighting the system. And when you say that, I kind of get a little triggered, but I know you're right because I look back at Laura Loomer, and that is just.
Well, even Milo has just like ghosted at this point.
And I know what they were trying to do because I have that same blood in me to want to do the same thing. But you've got to hope this is all we got right now.
For the time being, they have their thumb on us, and we have no choice but to just make it through. Seems like.
Absolutely. My ma, growing up, she would always say to me, "Scott, you can be right, but you can be dead right." And
and getting messed up on the signal again.
I go.
Well, we got a sketchy signal here.
Active in the future.
All right, we're having a little bit more technical difficulties over here with the signal, but we got you. You right, but you could be dead right. That's a very very wise statement there by your mom.
Well, and pick your battles. Pick your battles. I know in the workplace, I picked a battle with a lady that her husband happens to run the place.
That could be a problem.
That wasn't a good idea.
Not a good idea.
That was bad. So you gotta pick your battles. And this one right now, at this point in time, I mean, Jack Dorsey has even there are articles written that Jack Dorsey is even thinking about messing with Trump's account.
Well, if that happens and Trump is out of there, then so is Twitter.
Right, and I would love that.
Yeah. Any last words, Scott, about you actually get that out there on the street with signs and stuff like that. How do people hook up and help you out on that? Oh, we lost him again. What is with the signal? Oh, it got worse when you moved. I think you moved to help the signal.
Certainly. Well, I'll
give
you an example. This happened while I was.
Oh, we have the signal got worse when you moved, Scott. I think Scott moved to help the signal, and I'm not sure what the story is on that. We'll have to do hardwired interviews, or they're just like hardwired right into the wall or something at their house.
Yeah, I would definitely say if you're on Wi-Fi, that's probably why it's not working. There you are. Gotcha.
Can you hear us, Scott? Oh,
yes, sir. I can hear you guys.
There we go.
So,
okay.
I'll give you an example of something that just happened.
Oh, boy, technical difficulties. We need a satellite truck. Oh, all right. Well, we're gonna have to. I guess we'll have to end it there. I'll text Scott to tell him that we lost him. Oh, sorry about that, Scott. And sorry for all the viewers out there. We had a great interview going there. We were wrapping it up. But you want to follow Scott at Scott Presler. It's one S, one L, one R, Presler. A lot of times people put two S's in there. It's one S. And I'm going to text him real quick to let him know that we wrapped it up and just technical difficulties.
Yeah, if you're a guest or you're Wi-Fi'd in, if you're on your laptop and we bring you in on video feed and you're on Wi-Fi, I wouldn't trust that at all. Definitely hardwired into the wall is the best way to do it. But anyways, okay, so let's continue with this theme that we're talking about with the illegal immigration. Let's talk about the border wall. I told you that there's some things that are coming up with the border wall. And this also dovetails, this border wall is going to dovetail with two other different major things going on in America. One, it's going to dovetail, the border wall is going to dovetail with the 2020 election because we're going to hammer it home. Not only that, are we going to hammer it home, but Dan Bongino is now reporting that Democrats are feeling the heat and the pressure from their constituents because they want the wall too.
Ooh, really?
Right, right.
Okay.
So Democrat constituents are screaming at the Democrats.
It's interesting because when you listen to the mainstream media and all the Democrats that are in elected positions, you would think that there is this big battle between those who want the wall built and those who don't want the wall built, or those who want open borders and no security at our borders, no state sovereignty or country sovereignty in our situation. But you're saying that in reality, it's kind of like just the elected officials in the mainstream media pushing a narrative that nobody's buying into, or at least they may not. If they're buying into it, they only believe that it's the popular opinion that we shouldn't be building walls, we should be building bridges. And you get a couple people that'll sound off and actually say that, or they'll show a sign at a rally. Right. But it turns out it's human nature to want to protect yourself. I was watching a scope the other day with Scott Adams where he was talking about, he actually mentioned something that I'd never thought of before. I never even knew about it, but he said the foundation of capitalism is being able to protect the wealth. So that's why you have these really strong banks with the big walls, and then people started building vaults when, people were robbing banks.
Well, and I work for a gold manufacturing company. They have a vault. And the one vault houses offices and desks,
so it's a
and
giant
chairs. The vault is literally the size of maybe half the size of a small gymnasium.
Oh, wow. And that's a vault.
Right.
To get into that room, you're going through
and there
major
in
walls.
that vault are
if a fire broke out. That's crazy.
Yeah, we do fire drills all the time. But,
wow.
But hundreds of millions of dollars worth of stones. Not necessarily just diamonds, but stones. And then the other vault with all the gold is probably the size of a kitchen. Just a small apartment, well, maybe a little bit bigger than an apartment kitchen type thing.
Oh, wow, that's pretty small.
Yeah.
And that's the gold.
Yeah, that's where the gold tube is for us. But yeah, you got to protect your stuff.
Yeah, and the thing about capitalism, I'm not going to get too deep into this. This could be a whole show and get into this. But, the thing about capitalism is, the teachings of John Locke is that civilization is built on man going out and laboring, and whatever they produce, their labor is attached to that property, whatever it may be. We talk about acorns on the ground. If they're on the ground falling from the tree, they're free for anybody to come along and pick them up. But if somebody were to go around and gather them up and put them in a sack, it took labor to do that. Those acorns now have attached to them your labor that has a value. So if you were to sell them to somebody, they should give you something of value. And if you build all the way up until what we have today, all of it can only exist when you can protect that wealth so that other people aren't stealing it. And so there's like this, almost it's in our DNA to not just protect our labor by, locking up our valuables, but you don't want somebody to come in and kidnap your children and rape your wife or murder your family and stuff like that. So you put up walls and you put a door with a lock on it and you protect your home, and it just goes bigger and bigger. And by the way, a community is just an extension of your own family home. So you have one house, you're protecting your family, your kids, your wife, all that kind of stuff. Well, a community is like a group of families, homes, where they are collectively protecting themselves in their community. You go up to the state level and then to the nation level, it's all the same thing. You start talking about, well, we don't need borders, just let everybody come in and out and do whatever they want. All of a sudden, it's like a breakdown of civilization.
Right. So here's our first video clip of the day. Nancy, I've lost my ever-loving mind, Pelosi. She is getting stranger, weirder, and more awkward by the day. Tracy tweeted this out. She's at LILBULLI1031. She tweets out a lot of good things. I don't know where that handle came from, but whatever.
Looks like it says Little Bully.
Little Bully? Okay.
1031. Little
right.
Bully. But instead of with a Y, it's an I.
Yep. Okay, cool. So Tracy tweeted this out. This is what scared stupid sounds like when you have a net worth of $120 million on a public servant salary. At POTUS is about to cut off your future earnings by building that wall. Here's Nancy Pelosi in the interview, and here's what she got done.
There's not going to be any wall money in the legislation. However, if they have some suggestions about certain localities where technology, some infrastructure, as I said, about the ports of entry, we might need more ports of entry. We might need some roads. That's part of the negotiation. It is not a negotiation for the president to say. What did he say today? It doesn't matter what Congress does. I knew that he wanted it all to himself. I mean, oh, really? A president who wants to have Congress be completely irrelevant in how we meet the needs of the American people? No, come on. So let them work their will. I'm an appropriator. See, that's where one of the places I was forged. Intelligence. Shall we go to that subject on the president? Intelligence and appropriations. And they know their brief. They know their limitations in terms of financial resources, and they have to choose the best way to use the money for the American people.
Oh my gosh. There are certain things where Congress it's not their job, and she makes it sound like she has to have her hand in every single thing. Well, as a congressman, no. That's not how our government's set up. They have certain duties spelled out in the Constitution, and when it comes to protecting our borders, that would be more of an executive branch thing. As far as coming up with the money for it, it's not that you're cutting out Congress. It's if he was going to declare a national emergency and use funds from elsewhere other than the budget that they're coming up with, which is what caused the government shutdown, you're just getting money from another place. And as long as it's legal, then everything's on the up and up. And that's what this national emergency thing is. And by the way, how could it not be a national emergency? It seems silly that we have to go down the road of trying to have a debate over whether or not it's a national emergency. Not only does it exceed the threshold of other current national emergencies as we speak, but just in general, even if there were no national emergencies on the books right now, which is like 20 of them, you could easily make the case that what pretty much amounts to an invasion would be considered a national emergency. I mean, if there were Russians during the Cold War that were coming up in a caravan, that would be a major national emergency.
Absolutely. And there are now caravans that are coming up by the tens of thousands. I believe they're tracking 3 new caravans making their trek up here. You know what? For all of you globalists, you're not going to get America. America is completely different. The citizens are completely different. We will never stand for this kind of stuff ever, ever, ever. We are a country of law and order. That's why Donald Trump was elected. And real quick, I made a mistake. The Gateway Pundit reported on the CNN Reporter. I didn't do the clip because it was just a 10-second clip, but the CNN reporter said Democrats are getting pounded. Americans are catching on that they don't care about border security.
Catching on? That needs to be said?
Right.
If you don't know that Democrats don't care about border security at this point, it's not that they don't care about border security. They care about eliminating it. They care a lot about it. And by the way, that's actually spin. The truth is that they do want a wall. They do want a massive wall. They want to protect the borders. But the reason that they are going down the road of saying, no, we don't, what wall? What are we talking about? A wall? A wall? A wall? Come on. Is because it's the one thing that if they can deny Donald Trump is going to be the read my lips moment in the next election. And they know that. They know that this will almost certainly win them the election if they can deny him the wall. And here's the thing. It's not his wall. It's not denying him the wall. It's denying us the wall.
Right.
And that is all the proof you need to know that the Democrats put politics ahead of country.
And I want to say this. There was a report that was put out. And at first I welcomed the report. But now I have a different take, and I scoped about it. And just real quick, 43%. The poll said Donald Trump will lose 43% of his base's support if he doesn't get the wall. I initially said, hey, great, good, throw those poll numbers out so Donald Trump realizes that there's a trigger moment here that he can seize upon and make it happen. Then I started to think, you know what, Carrie? If Donald Trump doesn't build the wall, or finally does build the wall, but builds it in 7.5 years, say he finally gets the wall built in his 7th year of presidency, say he finally gets everything completed miraculously in the last 6 months of his presidency. Guys, I'm good.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm good.
Right.
I'm not pressing. I want it 2020, obviously. And the Democrats want to make it about 2020, obviously. And it's come to the point to where this is the battle, this is the fight, 2020. Okay, fine. But I'm letting you know that my support for this president will not flinch because of this battle for the wall. Yes, it absolutely must be done.
Well, we need everybody to know that if he were to somehow not get his wall, it's 100% on the Democrats. The
Correct.
Democrats denied him the wall. And this is what he's doing with the 21 days of hiatus on the government shutdown. Some people are speculating, and I'm speculating too, whether or not after the 21 days he will either reclose the government, or I should say allow Nancy Pelosi to close it again,
right.
out of sheer negligence, right? It's like blaming somebody for foreclosing your house and kicking you out because
why'd you do that, man?
Because you didn't pay your bills. That's kind of like what's going on with the Nancy Pelosi thing. But so the speculation is does the government close down again after 21 days, or at that point does he go ahead and declare the national emergency? I think the reason why he did this was because he needed to go through the steps necessary to be able to properly blame the Democrats for denying us the wall.
Fully, 100% ownership. Trump will come out, and it will be a very easy case to make. Mm-hmm. State of the Union address coming this Tuesday, folks. It is going to be a hoot. Nancy Pelosi sitting behind Trump, having to introduce Trump and sitting behind Trump for the entire hour that he speaks. And then you got the woman, the Abrams.
The response.
Yeah, the black woman who lost an epic form in Georgia. Oprah Winfrey went down there to throw some pork for her. Didn't work out. She lost, refused to accept the loss, refused to move away, still blaming everybody and everything else. And now she's given the response.
And she also tried to steal the election, complete election fraud. And, people like that should be arrested.
Definitely. So here's the breaking inside ball game news. This clip's about 3 minutes long, but I'll probably stop it when he makes the first point, when he makes his, the point that we're trying to get across. And this is during a House Armed Services Committee hearing on Tuesday under Secretary of Defense for Policy John Rood. Confirms to Representative Mo Brooks. Mo Brooks is pressing him, asking questions, and he gets some answers on the border wall, how to do it, has it been done, and can we use this other option?
9/11, as we all know, resulted in the deaths of roughly 3,000 Americans in New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, in the Washington, D.C. area. And the net effect of the loss of those 3,000 lives was to invade Iraq and Afghanistan at a cost of trillions of dollars and many thousands of lost lives by military personnel and civilian support personnel. In contrast,
now, just real quick, for those of you listening, this is the representative, Mr. Brooks, who's painting the picture. Real quick, he's painting the picture of 9/11, went to Iraq, all the money spent, and all the thousands of lives lost. Comparing and contrasting that to the border.
Illegal aliens cause roughly 2,000 homicides on American soil per year. At least over 2,000 illegal aliens were apprehended by federal law enforcement officers in fiscal year 2018 for homicides. And as was mentioned earlier by Congresswoman Hartzler and Congressman Scott, drug overdoses cost roughly 70,000 American lives per year. And the evidence is overwhelming that a substantial portion of the drugs, those poisons that cause the loss of American lives, come across our southern border illegally. In terms of lost American lives, then, our porous southern border, combined with the homicides of illegal aliens, far exceeds the loss of life caused by 9/11. With that as a backdrop, I want to direct your attention to 10 United States Code 284, which authorizes President Trump to deploy the military to the southern border, to build fences, and to do a lot of other things. And for clarity, if you look it up in the dictionary, the word fence includes the word barrier, and the word barrier includes walls made of a variety of different materials. So that having been said, it seems to me that 10 U.S. Code 284 can be used by the President of the United States to direct the United States military to build a wall. Now, as of today, you've mentioned military forces along the southern border. Have any of them been deployed pursuant to 10 U.S.C. 284?
Congressman, I don't believe any of our forces have been deployed pursuant to 10 U.S.C. 284. You are correct, however, that use of authority would authorize the Secretary of Defense to erect barriers, roads, fencing, those type of materials to disrupt drug smuggling.
Boom!
Well, there you go. I think that pretty much sums it up right there. So it's funny that he said that because somebody actually tweeted or commented on our show because walls are impenetrable to multi-billion-dollar cartels, and then had the rolly eyes.
Oh,
so he's being sarcastic. Well, actually, the experts say you're wrong. So we get a lot of dumb people that watch our show.
You can be wrong. It's okay.
Yes.
I've been wrong before myself. Yeah. It's just when you're wrong, understand it.
Yeah, when we tell you or show you a clip that completely contradicts what you say, we are proud to know that we've educated you and made you less dumb than you were before. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
At Ken Paxton, who's Texas Attorney General, at Ken Paxton, voter fraud arrest. My election fraud unit has arrested Bernice Aneta Garza for using a dead person's dead for 9 years identity to vote illegally in 2016. Many of the media are saying voter fraud isn't real, but the facts are the facts. And now we have reports coming out of Texas saying nearly 58,000 non-citizens illegally voted in Texas, and more possibly nationwide. This is real, folks. This is how they steal the election forever.
Yeah, and it is widespread, it is massive, and it is actually happening. The argument that the left was making for years was, well, if you can't show me examples of where people were actually stealing votes, either through, whatever kind of voter fraud, you name it, the laundry list of different ways that you can steal votes with election fraud, you don't show me evidence of it actually happening, then we're just going to go ahead and continue with our head in the sand saying that it's not happening. And of course, they want you to do that because it was happening, and they wanted you to be like, well, I guess maybe it's not happening. And now you're starting to see the actual evidence. And their argument is the reason you don't see evidence before, when there weren't these stories coming out there, is because it's impossible. they would say, show me how that's possible. And I would even ask, I have a guy that works in the Board of Elections here in Cincinnati, and he would say, well, and he would walk through all the safeguards to prevent, like, for instance, when somebody dies, how do they know the very next election that person cannot vote? Well, they have this system where they send out all this information, but it's a chain of events that any portion of that chain gets broken.
It's all over.
And all of a sudden, they're all operating in the dark. Just one link of that chain breaks, and the whole thing could be thrust into darkness. A lot of voter fraud could happen. All you need is for somebody to know that one of the links were broken, and they got the green light. It's like that scene in Ghostbusters where Janine hits the bell. We got one! And boom, you got all your voter fraud going on there. So here's a woman that died 9 years ago. Apparently it took them too long. By the way, just because they caught her does not mean they retroactively delete her vote. The vote happened. The results are in. Somebody won and somebody lost. They do not go back and say, Brian, I know you won the last election by one vote, but we just found voter fraud from this one lady.
It's too bad, too sad.
Yeah, it does not happen.
It has never. I have never ever seen.
Doesn't get reversed.
A reversal.
No, not on that. And just recently, I couldn't argue with people that said, "Show me the examples. Show me the examples of voter fraud." Well, it turns out that our side is a little bit. We're passive. We're like, hey, I'm just trying to go to work every day, put food on the table, have some fun on the weekends, and live my life. I'm not here to try to manipulate people. But the left do that nonstop. So we're not out looking for voter fraud if we're not suspecting it. So all the way up until recently, there's no evidence of voter fraud because people aren't really looking. And now this kind of stuff is starting to come out. What was it? Tens of thousands of illegal votes cast in Texas.
Right. And so now California has agreed by a lawsuit filed by Judicial Watch. We reported this before, but I'll say it again because it just popped in my mind, that a judge has ordered the scrubbing of, I think it's millions of names off voter rolls.
And where is this?
In California.
Oh, it could be. There's a lot of people out there. There was a voter roll scrubbing effort here in Ohio. I didn't really study into it, but it was in the news. So, so stuff like that is happening.
And this is speaking about the election 2020 is already in full force. They're really getting the word out. And somebody got in front of Kellyanne Conway in the White House and had a question or two to ask of her of what she thinks about what's going on with the 2020 Democrats.
I think Cory Booker often sounds like a Hallmark card and not necessarily a person who's there to tell you everything he's accomplished in the United States Senate and as mayor of Newark. So we'll wait to look at his record. I imagine that the crowded Democratic field of presidential aspirants will be attacking each other's records or lack thereof. So we'll be sitting back with copious bowls of popcorn watching that.
Copious bowls of popcorn.
Copious bowls of popcorn watching that.
So did you want to talk about Cory Booker for a second? Because, or do you have more videos?
No, I didn't. I didn't do. I got this one. This guy these two guys on CNN slobber all over Cory Booker, but it's.
Well, I could probably destroy their.
Well, I pulled the clip down because it's 2 minutes, but it talks about Kamala Harris and Cory Booker. And it just kind of made to remind me to say certain things about them that happened this week. But if you want to go with Cory, let's go with Cory.
I do. My daily work is contracting, and I'm able to listen to things all day while working in my earbuds. And I'll never forget during the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh.
Oh man.
Cory Booker basically did a massive filibuster. Because I remember working. I got a lot done.
What are you talking about, Spartacus?
I'm not sure if that was the same exact one because he talks a lot. But there was one where he was doing an official speech in front of the hearing and everything, and he went on and on. And at some point, they very, very, very graciously tried to say, "Oh, can you wrap it up? They were like playing the music like they do in the Oscars and all that kind of stuff.
And then like the music got so loud that it was on 100%. And like the music doesn't get any louder, man.
They had to bring in additional speakers.
Then they took the hook.
Oh, gosh. That's the vaudeville stuff. So you're trying to pull vaudeville. Okay, so I'm listening carefully to him as I'm working and listening to what he's saying. And not just what he's saying, but how he's saying it. And when I say what I'm about to say, I want you to remember it. And every time you hear him speak, I want you to think about what I'm about to say because you're going to be like, oh, my gosh, that's it. You know what he is? He is a Little League football coach. Who's actually good. He's one of the guys that you're like, man, I'm really glad that I found this football team for my son.
And when you say Little League, you're saying like 7th grade?
No, Little League, 6th grade.
Grade school. Grade school. Okay, grade school.
Yeah, like the Pee Wee football. Or maybe junior high. Not high. When you get into high school, those people take it super seriously.
When you're 8th grade, 9th grade and up, you're getting real serious about what's going on.
Yeah, and the corny locker room speeches generally aren't going to fly once you hit high school.
Yeah.
So he sounds like this big motivator. Like if he was your son's Pee Wee football coach, you'd be like, wow, I'm really glad I found this team. I never heard about this coach before, but he's phenomenal. I'm going to tell my friends and neighbors about this guy, and he would be great. He would be a great Little League coach. Really pumping the kids up and all that kind of stuff and just getting emotional with the speeches and everything like that. But he's also that coach that after you've played for him for a couple of years and your son's starting to get a little older and you've been on the team for 4 years or something like that, you start to realize that it's actually more about his own glory.
Yes!
He's trying to build the greatest football team ever at the Little League level.
Right, at the Little League level.
So that everybody can look at him and say, wow, look what he did.
Look
He's
at that
such
coach.
a great coach.
Yeah.
He was able to take this ragtag bunch of kids who had nothing going for them and turn them into contenders.
Oh, no!
And he did that, and he's the type of person that would love to take all the credit for it. So next time you hear him speak for any extended period of time, not just if it was just like a little interview because you won't really fully grasp it. I'm talking about a prepared speech. It's locker room, and it sounds motivating. It sounds good. It sounds like, wow, this guy's a leader. But start to listen to the actual content. It is all about him. He can't shut up about himself.
We got a full blown almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Of this.
Of Cory Booker. Doing the all of his stump speeches are going to be locker. In fact, I hope we can green screen it or something and have the lockers behind him or something. We'll do something. Maybe we'll talk to
Carpe Dunkum.
Yeah.
Say, hey, what do you think, man?
Put the lockers behind him like any given Sunday or whatever. But
that's too much because that's exactly what it is. But folks, we've got almost just under like a year and 9 months of these Democrats that are all throwing their hat in the ring, and this is going to be epic. To say the least, it's going to ruin a lot of careers because they honestly believe that they have what it takes to be president of the United States of America. And this isn't a one dog and pony show anymore. You can't just pull this. You can't just put the face on for a year and 9 months. Without us destroying you on social media, Hillary Clinton.
Oh, you can't fake it. And she tried to fake. She tried to phone it in.
She tried to phone in the election because she had it in the bag.
Phone in the whole campaign from the very beginning to the very end. She was just like, they're going to make it all happen for me. They're going to make it happen. And so.
All right. So here's CNN talking about Booker and Harris and the crowded field.
Defer to you, to the gentleman on my right here, Errol Lewis, starting with you, and just on message and on timing, first day of Black History Month. What did you think?
Sure. Well, look, message and timing could probably have been tweaked a little bit. Most people who have as big of a vision as Cory Booker has would have maybe chosen a bigger setting, something like what Kamala Harris did with 20,000 cheering supporters on a downtown plaza.
Quite a different rollout.
Okay.
It's interesting.
That's pretty much all you need to hear.
I didn't even dissect his
Mark Dice. You got to give credit to Mark Dice for this one, too. Mark Dice tweeted out, he said, Cory Booker's announcement he's running for president today looks like a news dump. What a genius. Make the announcement on Friday and a holiday weekend, Super Bowl weekend, for that matter, when nobody is paying any attention. Who's advising him? Good luck, Spartacus.
Wow. He's going to need it.
So Mark Dice tweets that out, and then CNN runs and does a piece to combat Mark Dice.
Well, I mean, you heard the expert that it was ill-advised to not have. He needed a bigger setting, like do it at the foot of the Lincoln Memorial or something like that, like with a crowd, whatever.
But he did it in front of his house.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did it in front of his house. Not only that, but he didn't have a crowd.
No,
and
you probably wouldn't unless you had something more set up. But.
Well, you would think you would because that's your district. Oh, what's going on with Cory Booker's district?
I guess he didn't get the little league parents out.
Ain't no good, folks. His district, they're talking about Newark. They're talking about it. Absolutely, Cory Booker absolutely doing nothing to benefit the citizens that he's supposed to represent. And it's a complete and utter disaster. I'm telling you right now, as it goes, Donald Trump is not afraid to call a spade. He's not afraid to go out there, take the gloves off, go fisticuffs, and say, here's the deal. Cory Booker has absolutely failed his people as a representative. Mm-hmm. And here's why, X, Y, and Z. If he can't get it done on a small little league scale,
gosh, if he can't do it if he didn't win the Little League Super Bowl,
how are you possibly going to? No, man. No. So Kamala Harris, she did have a crowd of 20,000 out in Los Angeles. But I'm going to say that
impressive.
But the weather's nicer. I mean, we had frigid temperatures here.
Okay.
But the weather's nicer, and she's got better people to rally the troops, I guess. I don't know. The biggest tweet of her life was tweeting out, I am officially running for President of the United States of America 2020. That was, it has to be, the biggest tweet of her life. Because it's about her aspirations, where she wants to go.
It's about the biggest thing she could possibly ever do.
She has 2.2 million followers on Twitter.
That's massive.
That's more than Glenn Beck.
There's a lot of politicians that do not have that many followers.
I've seen some politicians with a couple thousand.
Right.
This is 2.2 million, and I bring this up for a reason, folks. So she tweeted that out. In a 24-hour period, what kind of – because people, I want you to understand, Twitter is difficult to get retweets and likes if you're not pithy, witty, or something eye candy, catching, something.
Right.
Now, this being her and her followers, they would absolutely be thrilled.
Well, it would be something worth retweeting.
Right. So in a 24-hour period, what do you think that that she would garner in retweets?
Based on my experience with people with big accounts and just watching what kind of activity they get, I would think she would get at least 25, 30,000 likes, I would think.
In a 24-hour period, it was 90.
What? 90? Dude, she's got to have a fake account.
Okay. So as I scope this week, folks, you guys know this can be done. I've looked into it. I used to do stuff that was legal, and I know guys in Romania that they will set up accounts for you all day long. Facebook, Twitter, whatever you want. Stack it, load it, front load it, back load it, whatever you want. You can pay for retweets and likes and everything. This is all smoke and mirror. But when it comes down to the bottom line, something that Carrie and I just in talking realized that this is what happens, like Glenn Beck. When you lose your following. See, he didn't buy his following. He had a following, but he lost it because of who he...
Right. He did get as big as you would imagine.
Okay, so he's got 1 million followers, and he garners 90 retweets. Why? Because he lost his following. She's new on the scene. 2.2 million followers, 90 retweets about the biggest thing in your history, your political career, and you garner 90?
Wow.
It's because you've got a fake account.
I was thinking anywhere from 15 to 30,000 likes. Retweets are a little different. It just depends what people are feeling, what people are thinking. I always notice that people get anywhere from 50% to 3 times more likes on any given tweet than retweets. Because when you retweet something, it's as if you tweeted it. And it shows up on your notifications that way. So if I have Brian on notifications, I have his notifications set to on, and Brian retweets something, it'll show up in my notifications as Brian tweeting it. And then I'll go check, like, ooh, what did Brian tweet? No, he just retweeted somebody else, but it's looked at as tweeting. So that's why those numbers are like that. So and it's kind of weird as to whether or not you get a lot of retweets. But you could have something really awesome and get like hundreds of likes, but hardly any retweets. But anyway, as far as Glenn Beck and followers, we've seen this before. Remember way back in 2000, maybe 2015, definitely 2016, we were talking about the followers that all the different candidates for president had, whether they were real or not, and we actually talked about how Hillary doesn't have a real following. There were a lot of fakes.
Yes.
There were a lot of fakes.
Somebody actually exposed it. See, you can analyze somebody's account.
Yeah.
And you can, with it's websites, they'll analyze the account for you, and they can tell you if these are bots, if they're fake followers, real followers, how many, and you can actually clean up your own account if you want. I know we know somebody that did that. And would clean up their account and make sure that if they had bots following them, they get rid of them.
Right.
But when you do Hillary Clinton's account, you find it's all bought and paid for.
Yeah, she had handlers for her campaign whose job it was to do the best for her campaign and her odds of actually being elected president. And of course, one of the decisions that they would have made would be, let's make her look larger than life by getting her a giant following. How do we do that? Well, we can pay these people to do this and these people do this. And they probably said, okay, let's make it happen. And they bought a bunch of followers.
Okay, so Kamala Harris, it's already blown out the water. She's a massive tweeter, apparently.
She's a prolific.
She's out there doing it. It's all the same regurgitated gook all over again. She's supporting the new Green Deal. She's supporting all-in government health care. They're not even talking about doing Obamacare. They are absolutely saying, no, we're not going to hide this. It's full-blown government care, and that's it.
Government care.
We've got to get rid of single payer. Single payer is the only way to go, and that's what we got to do. And when they say single payer, the only thing that should trigger your mind, VA scandal nightmare.
Yeah.
I work with a guy who's retired Marine Corps.
Okay.
Refuses to go to the VA.
Well,
he's on his wife's insurance on another company.
We're kind of a strange anomaly here in Cincinnati. We actually have a very impressive VA, but it's an anomaly. Most of the time, have you seen Born on the 4th of July?
Yeah.
That is the most creepiest VA experience, like just watching the scene.
Right.
That's really bad.
That's not Cincinnati. I've been down to the VA. It's nice.
Is right on par.
You're talking about the one up in Clifton.
Off of Vine.
Yeah.
Vine, and it's on par with any of the best hospitals elsewhere in Cincinnati, but we're the exception, not the rule. I don't know why. Maybe whoever's in charge of the VA hospital here should be absolutely commended. I hope that Trump came and shook his hand and said good job, or whatever, her hand, whoever it is, and. But you do not want to rely on the government for anything, ever. If you have to, It is what it is, but when you don't have to, you don't want to support programs that just give it to you because, hey, the government can do it. No. You don't want to do that. You end up like Venezuela. It's communism.
Okay, so she's tweeting out, this just happened just a couple of days ago. Kamala Harris tweeted out, and she supports open borders. She supports everything that the libs support. I mean, it's just nothing new. But she tweeted out 2 years ago this week, the president enacted his first of many Muslim bans.
Which is that's a lie right there. She's a bold-faced liar.
Instantly sparking fury across the country. We saw people speak out against anti-Muslim rhetoric and lend a helping hand like these lawyers did, camping out at airports to help those wrongfully detained. And a woman's holding a big, giant, bright yellow sign that says, "Lawyer, talk to me if you're concerned about an arriving family member."
That is so weird.
So could Kamala Harris be complicit in aiding and abetting or promoting illegal activity? I mean, why? I guess the family member being here is legal, and this lawyer is saying, "Hey, if you know somebody that's coming here, you need to talk." I could talk, but this is what we're doing. We're subverting law and order. We want safety.
Right. But and it's not even a Muslim ban. What she's talking about is a travel ban from certain locations that are from countries that have people of all religions, but happen to have more Muslims than by percentage per capita, I guess, than other countries. But that's not why it was. It's like it's a war. It's like during World War II to have a travel ban from Germany, from Berlin to Washington D.C. was not anti-German.
No.
Or whatever.
Right.
So it's just silly.
And I misspoke. I said she launched it out of Los Angeles. I correct myself. It was out of Oakland. She launched it out of Oakland. And her signs, let's talk about optics. I'm big in the signs, optics, and if it's good or if it's bad. And I'm telling you right now, her signs are god-awful ugly.
Okay.
They're ugly. The color schemes, it's a giant yellow board with blue and red words on it.
Yeah, and the yellow is, it's hard to describe. It's almost like a really light brown, like really light. Or some could say gold, but for a designer, it would be considered like that old gold look, the old gold look.
Right.
So I don't know. It just doesn't seem, it just seems kind of strange.
It doesn't look right. Well, I'm trying to get it, but it's real small on the screen. But if you can kind of see, you kind of get a gist of it on the screen there. The colors, Kamala Harris is in the, you know what that yellow, it's like a brownish mustard yellow. It's the ugly refrigerator yellow that we had back in the 80s.
How about that yellow that they painted the Corvette back in the late 60s?
Yeah.
It's late 60s yellow.
And it says Kamala Harris in yellow for the people in red. And it's the optics, folks. It doesn't look good. It's
just kind of strange.
It's just like we were cracking on Hillary with the sign that says H and it had the arrow.
Hospital, yeah.
The
that's
hospital
bad
sign.
Optics, yeah.
And
everybody immediately went hospital.
That and This Way to Hell.
Oh, okay.
So we've got that, and so as we're talking about these candidates that are coming up and that are coming out, we've got that's right. I almost forgot a friend of ours, Polish Patriot. Mm-hmm. He tweeted out a video, recently discovered footage from 1988, which is not that long ago, reveals a shirtless Bernie Sanders with his wife Jane on their honeymoon in the USSR, drunkenly singing "This Land Is Your Land" with a group of presumed Soviets.
Interesting. There's a lot of stuff written there that I wish I knew you were going to read that, because I would have verified with him what he knows for 100% fact, because there is a lot of information that he's saying in that tweet that that the picture and the video, it's actually a video,
right.
doesn't really prove. It seems like it's somewhere in Europe,
right.
Eastern Europe, possibly. You could tell that it's probably Bernie Sanders, but as far as it definitely being USSR, whether he was definitely drunk, whether the people that were with him were definitely Soviets, even whether it's definitely 1988. A lot of questions there they have answered, but let's assume it's all true. I remember when I was a kid, if you were younger than me, you could never imagine it growing up during the Cold War.
Right, if you're 35 years old, you missed it.
Yes. So everybody my age, our thoughts of crossing over into the Soviet Union was similar to Spies Like Us when they were like, we are going to cross over the border, and they had the Kalashnikovs and people firing machine guns at you and that kind of stuff. And even if that was not real because it was just Hollywood, that was our perception of it. So for him to do that in 1988, what was in his mind?
Beyond blasphemy, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely, we would have considered it un-American. But then again, we had a great aunt who also in the 80s
traveled
to the Red Square. Yeah. She may have been a commie too. I don't know.
Oh, you never know.
We didn't know her well enough. We did not know her well enough.
Just wrapping this one up, Howard Schultz. This is a clip on Howard Schultz. I got to give credit where credit is due. At Andrew J. Kugle, K-U-G-L-E.
Kugle? Maybe? I don't know. It's K-U-G-L-E.
Yeah. Steve Schmidt says the people who are complaining about Schultz are the same people who told us that Trump couldn't win. He was also one of those people. Here's a little video that they put together. It's pretty awesome. Check this out.
The people who are doing the shouting almost universally are the same people who said Joe Biden shouldn't run because it was Hillary Clinton's turn. Mm-hmm. And they're the same people who put their thumb on the scale for Hillary Clinton against Bernie Sanders because he couldn't win. And they guaranteed us that Donald Trump would never be elected.
Well,
when you look at where the race is right now, Hillary Clinton's going to be elected the 45th president of the United States. I think they need to spend some serious...
By the way, for those of you audio only, this is a Republican strategist.
I'm preparing a concession speech. The magnitude of the electoral catastrophe for Republicans that is upon them just really can't be overstated. The presidential race is effectively over. And Hillary Rodham Clinton will be the 45th president of the United States. Chuck Schumer will be the majority leader of the United States Senate. And the only question that's still up in the air...
What's the over-under on the Electoral College victory for Hillary Clinton?
I think she's trending over 400.
Trending over 400?
Yes.
So
it's a
Democrats
Republican
take
strategy.
the Senate?
Yes.
Democrats take the House?
Close. The first person who addresses Hillary Clinton on Tuesday night as Madam President-elect that matters is Donald Trump.
So the clip you just played started off with him blasting people who didn't think that Donald Trump would be elected president.
Correct.
And then the rest of it was him
blasting Donald Trump
while he was a candidate, saying that he was never going to become president. So he's criticizing himself. He's a total idiot. And by the way, if you're watching MSNBC or CNN and they have somebody on where the description of the person speaking is Republican strategist, that means it's a far left liberal, far left, that when they hired them, they said, well, we'll just put an R next to your name. It'll be good.
Right.
We'll just call you a Republican strategist. You say what you can say. You could act like you're speaking on behalf of them, but just say what you want to say, and there you go. And that's what that guy is. So
right. And so what will happen when these Democrats are elected? What would happen? And this is tweeted out by a good friend of ours on Twitter, at StarCrossWolf. He's a super elite Texan. He tweeted out 2 different videos. And the one video, he says, you better sit up and pay attention. This is Europe today, a Europe the media is hiding from you. This is what every socialist politician and every rich liberal are working to bring here. If Clinton had won, this is America today. This is oppression. Retweet. And Okay. This is it. I'll turn the sound down because it's super, super loud. But for those of you audio only, this is a video clip of the Gestapo, the military polizia, on the streets in Europe, beating unarmed old people, young people, just violently.
What in the heck is he doing? What's he doing?
Kicking people. Somebody's laying on the ground already, and the polizia are just kicking and beating people everywhere. Oh, we got a woman by her hair, swinging her around, pulling them, yanking them. This is a montage video that goes on for a while. That is what's really going on in Europe. And then the second video this is the dark, evil underbelly of socialism. Here are the real people being shot at, no different than you and I. I make no mistake, people like Clinton, Harris, Soros, and the dumb from New York want this to happen here if they gain power again. So now this one, similar one, this is what would have happened if Clinton, and I'm not trying to sugarcoat this, I'm not trying to get everybody all excited and mad and angry. This is what's really going on. In Venezuela right now, the National Guard, here I'll put the video over, National Guard beating a young teenage girl in the middle of the street. She's just by herself. She's just a single teenager, and the cops are sitting on her, just beating her up. Unarmed students running away with their backs turned to the cops, and you hear the gunshots as the cops down there, or the law enforcement, if you will, is out there in Venezuela just randomly shooting people that are running away from them. This is the video footage they won't show you.
Soldiers fired from near point.
So this is the video that media doesn't want you to see of what happens in socialist regimes that completely fall apart. Donald Trump knows all this stuff's going on. He knows what's up. He knows what's going on. That's why he's supporting the opposition party. The cops just randomly running, chasing somebody down, unarmed, just beating them up in the middle of the... Oh, man, just whacked the guy with his gun. Guy laying on the ground, cops just kicked him and turned around, walked away. It wasn't like it was an arrest of sorts.
Yeah, shot at.
Hitting a woman in the face with a shotgun blast. Protesters shot in the stomach and left to die.
There's got to be thousands of deaths.
And then the person in the video said that the guy did die. Well, I would imagine if he got shot in the stomach and left to die, you die.
Yeah, because like when you were originally showing... Yeah, go ahead.
Unarmed students dragged and kicked and shot at.
When you first see the shotguns firing into a crowd, you're thinking, well, that's got to be like tear gas canisters or something. That can't be like shotgun shells and stuff, right? But we don't know that. And when people are actually dying from that stuff, it's kind of like... probably firing live ammo into crowds. And there's also been credible reports of that very thing happening. So that's what happens when you have a collapse of society, riots happening and all this stuff. And it's going to happen whenever you end up with a situation where people are starving, the government has 100% failed the people to be able to sustain society whatsoever. And that is what happens every single time communism is tried. And when you hear the word socialism, you must know that is communism. It's just socialism.
It's an avenue. It's a bus ride to commie town.
Well, in particular cases, socialism would be a portion of communism. So we have socialist medicine.
Well, we're rolling out.
Yeah, they don't call it communist medicine because that's probably the wrong way to describe it. You would call it socialist medicine, or socialized medicine.
You gotta drink your medicine.
What communism is when the state mandates that all the different parts of society are socialized, and you have the whole thing. So,
and when I say when they joke about Donald Trump and Christianity and that God chose Donald Trump, just to run down real quick, CNN, just want to give you a heads up. Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton, beat Barack Obama, beat John McCain, also beat Fusion GPS and Davis Manafort LLC connection. That's why Manafort had to be get rid of very quickly. The FBI tipped off John McCain, not Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton continued collusion with Russia after the winning of Barack Obama. Obama said in 2012, tell Vladimir Putin I'll have more flexibility. Uranium One, Benghazi, Syria, Russia restart, and the 2016 election and the run-up. Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump beat Perkins Coie, and the lawyer there, Sussman, that was working with Fusion GPS, and Glenn Simpson. Also, Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr's wife, helping to get the information to Bruce Orr, who was in the FBI. MI6 Christopher Steele, who was a former MI6 British spy and worked with the FBI on the FBI payroll. I'm just telling you, folks. Mother Jones and David Korn, they wrote about it, and it was called the Hail Mary, the football pass. It was a last-ditch chance to get Trump. Trump had to beat the deep state, Sally Yates, John Brennan, James Comey, McCabe, Rosenstein, Weissman, Bruce Orr, James Baker, Peter Strzok, and Lisa Page, British Intel, Five Eyes, and just
the list goes
the list goes on and on and on. And the unsung hero, folks, I'm telling you, this was God said, all right, now with Trump, I'm gonna send you. You need a gift right now. You need a little something, because I got you through all of this, and you got the election, and you need to win back America. So I'm going to tap Admiral Mike Rogers of the NSA to come pay you a visit, give you a heads up about your wires being tapped.
Oh, yeah. It's interesting. Wow, what would have happened? Because he was gonna hang out in New York for a while. So just to recap, Trump Tower had his wires were tapped. Of course, they try to call that a lie, but essentially they were completely surveilling the entire building. I imagine without a warrant, or if there was warrants, it would be fraudulent. We know that a lot of the FISA warrants are totally fraudulent. Or these particular ones, not just in general, but these particular ones definitely proven fraudulent. And Donald Trump was reluctant to just jump right into the White House or go somewhere else. He loved his office in New York City. He loved working
Trump
there.
Tower.
It's just where he was comfortable. Yeah. It's his hometown. And he was going to be working there until probably the day he was sworn in or whatever. And it was General Rogers that said, hey, I got some inside information for you. Obama is just totally just surveilling the crap out of you.
So Admiral Rogers finds out, because he's the head of the NSA, he finds out that Barack Obama is tapping everybody.
President Obama at the time. Yep.
Tapping everybody. And I don't know if you guys remember the whistleblower program, where whistleblowers were
get thrown in jail for speaking up.
Found and removed. The reports are coming out now that they were spying on whistleblowers. You with
Absolutely.
the whistleblow,
yeah.
You're being spied on.
Right.
And this is, folks, this thing was so bad. This Russiagate was so bad. And the OIG, the Inspector General's report just came out, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically what it says is that they've got 3 FBI contractors that are currently the Defense Department, DOJ office, and the Inspector General's initiated this investigation upon the receipt of information from the FBI concerning multiple allegations involving FBI contractor and 3 FBI officials. So they did their report, and they said 3 FBI officials need to be investigated, and the 1 contractor does too. That contractor could be anybody from Fusion GPS or possibly Christopher Steele. Probably Christopher Steele, because the FBI had Steele on the payroll. Fusion GPS was on the Hillary Clinton payroll. And so the other 3 FBI officials, they said 2 currently working and 1 retired. which throws me off board. I don't know. We were doing a brainstorming thing on a scope I was doing, trying to figure out who these people probably are. And my goodness, you guys on the scope were throwing out all kinds of names I completely forgot about.
Blast from the past.
So here's the thing. You gotta wait. You gotta pray. You gotta take it easy. Take a deep breath. What did they say in the military? Hurry up and
wait.
I told you guys. I didn't need to tell Carrie that. Everybody in the government knows that. Hurry up and wait. And so that's what we're doing right now. You just gotta wait and just make sure it's gonna happen.
So frustrating.
Right. So the whole thing this week, the big explosion of the Russia. Joe Hoft was actually involved. Joe Hoft with the Gateway Pundit, the twin brother of Jim Hoft, wrote the article, and pretty much this was the head of the article. Hillary Clinton camp set up Trump Tower meeting between Russians and Don Jr. Russians involved are connected to the Clintons. So it is confirmed. We knew it all along, but it's now absolutely confirmed. Devin Nunes on Fox News said something also probably important to know about the so-called Trump Tower meeting. This is the meeting that actually Fusion GPS met with the people before and after the meeting.
Oh, my gosh.
Fusion GPS, once again, was a Clinton campaign paid-for operation outfit. They were clearly involved in the setup of the Trump Tower meeting. So if they want to bring Cohen in and talk to him, that's great. We'll participate. But the truth, if you really want to get to the truth behind the Trump Tower meeting, Fusion GPS and the Clinton campaign are all over it, and probably behind it, the group that organized the meeting with Trump advisors and the Russian lawyer was the same Democrat group, Fusion GPS, that was behind the discredited Trump dossier. And then it goes into the 8 people. Who was at the Trump Tower? Who was there at the Trump Tower meeting June 9th, 2016? Don Jr., Jared Kushner, Paul Manafort, Natalia Veskaya,
something like that.
Who's with Fusion GPS? And Anatoly, who's the translator with Fusion GPS. Renat, who's a lobbyist with Fusion GPS. Rob Goldstone, representative of the Arvanoff family. All right. The lawyer who met with the Trump team, and I've talked about this before, in 2016 was denied a U.S. visa to enter. However, she received special permission to enter the United States after filing an affidavit in the federal case in New York, signed off by Preet Bharara, former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, who Trump fired and replaced with June Kim. Then the whole layout, Dan Bongino, if you guys listen to him, he's got the entire layout.
To me, that's bad. To say that they had to bring somebody in who wasn't even allowed to enter the country. I mean, the Democrat Party, those are the two key points, is that the Democrat Party was behind and responsible for and basically ordered and paid for the meeting with Trump as an attempt to try to set him up using somebody who was not even allowed in the country, was a foreigner. It's not allowed in the country. They had to request a special waiver to allow this person into the country in order to set up their political opposition, and which is now used by the deep state as a way to try to enact a coup d'etat. This is the banana republic that you're living in right now.
Absolutely. And the guy Preet Bharara, Donald Trump put in place, Barack Obama put in place, and they knew that's all they had to do was go to him, and he'd sign off and get her in.
Yeah, all this stuff was happening under Barack Obama. For him to not know, either he was totally in on it because he knew and he was actively involved, or he should take a good amount of responsibility for having friends like this.
You would absolutely think.
For having a government, an administration full of people who collectively understand, they have this understanding amongst each other that this would be fine.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Right. So real quick, congressional testimony. This has come out, folks. All the testimony is coming out. It's being leaked. Congressional testimony confirms that the consultant, Glenn Simpson, founder of Fusion GPS, was hired by Hillary Clinton's campaign and the Democrat National Committee to put his political opposition magic against President Trump.
At the time, candidate.
Right, at the time, candidate. Simpson has testified he put former MI6 agent Christopher Steele, who hates Trump, on the job and sent him to Russia to speak with
who?
I keep wanting to call him Deepak Chopra. Depreska. To speak to Depreska, who has ties to Putin.
So it sounds to me like the Democrat Party may have, we haven't really established this 100% true, but it sure looks like they may have actually colluded with the Russian government in order to prevent candidate Trump from winning, and then once he did win, continue to use all the things that they originally set up at their disposal to perform a coup d'etat, to get him removed. They're colluding with a foreign government, possibly an adversary.
Right, and this billionaire, Depreska, that was connected to the Russian government, he's a multi-billionaire. If you live in Russia and you're a multi-billionaire, you are absolutely connected all the way to the top. Well, apparently Paul Manafort, and I wonder if that was a setup in itself, because Paul Manafort was working with Davis back with the McCain campaign and got kicked out. Was working way back in the Reagan campaign. I'm just wondering if this Manafort thing was a setup too. But apparently Manafort had done this Depreska guy wrong and owed, according to Depreska, owed him millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it looks like, the optics look like, Christopher Steele went to Depreska and said, hey, I know you got this grudge about Manafort, and I got this grudge against Trump. Mm-hmm. You work with us, there's money in this, man.
There's money in this.
You could get your money back if you want to work with us.
God.
So Simpson and Steele both kept a constant back channel. So Glenn Simpson and Christopher Steele continued to connect and talk with each other through Bruce Orr, the third highest in command at the FBI. The fourth highest in command at the FBI. And this all recently declassified messages now prove all this. Bruce Orr, whose wife Nellie Orr worked for Fusion GPS right alongside Glenn Simpson, coordinated before, during, and after the election with both Christopher Steele and Glenn Simpson. As somebody brought up on the scope that I completely and totally forgot about, that Nellie Orr conveniently, coincidentally, obtained her ham radio operator's license.
The thing about ham radios is that anybody can pick that up.
But you got to know what channel.
True.
And you got to be looking for it.
You have to, if you wanted to bypass the fact that when you do work on the internet, it tends to be forever.
Yeah. Ham radio is not forever. It's for the moment you're doing it.
Your activity ends up on a database somewhere that can be retrieved. It's not like it would be lost and you can't find it.
Right.
You'd be able to find the tracks on the internet. And calling, like using Verizon or whatever, landline, all this stuff is problematic. Ham radio, the only thing you got to worry about is if somebody were accidentally listening into the right channel
in real time,
intercept the whole thing.
That's real time.
Yeah, once the signal's out, it's gone forever. There is no, hey, they sent this out, and guess what? It's recorded right here. No. Somebody would have had to have known to record at the time. So it's actually probably relatively safe. It's funny because if you had told this story back when ham radios were popular, They would think you're crazy.
Right. Nobody would believe you because you're talking to anybody, anywhere, at any time.
Anybody could be listening.
I can dial into folks, you got to Google the ham radio. It's a big, giant box with knobs and dials.
If you do it at your house, you have to construct a giant tower.
I know.
Yeah. I had customers that either they still had it up. One guy, my next door neighbor actually was a ham radio operator for about a year. He actually had the tower next door. And another customer had them because they come apart. They assemble like Legos.
Right.
And he had all stacked up against his wall in his backyard. And I'm like, I guess this guy used to, and it's all rusty and stuff like that. But yeah, you got to put a giant tower in your yard.
Right. And I told, for some of you folks that were on the scope, I told you at one point in time, somebody from my church when I was a teenager brought his ham radio over to the house, hoping or thinking that it might be a good hobby to get me into.
You should have did it.
It was the most boring.
It's like talking to yourself.
It was so boring. It was like we're talking the 80s when MTV.
You could listen to other people. It was the Periscope of its day.
I know, but I got MTV that actually plays music videos. Mm-hmm. I got HBO that I could watch movies.
Okay.
I'm not looking to connect with anybody in the 80s at 13 years old.
Right.
I'm looking to be entertained, eye candy, or out in the woods with my friends. I'm not sitting in my bedroom on a radio trying to talk to somebody in Russia who doesn't speak my language.
Yeah, it'd be tough.
Anyway.
Listening to truckers or something like that.
Right. That doesn't make that interest me at 13 years old.
No.
So anyways, so both Christopher Steele and Glenn Simpson working with coordinating before, during, and after the election. Also, Hillary Clinton wasn't Simpson's only employer. The night before Trump Tower meeting, Simpson had a dinner with another client, Natalia Veselnitskaya.
Veselnitskaya.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. The Russian hottie. He had dinner with her again the night after the meeting. He told this to Congress. Veselnitskaya was at the Trump Tower meeting and is suspected of working for Glenn Simpson. Here's the thing, folks. This Russian woman, when she got to the tower, spoke to Don Jr. about Russian adoptions.
Which actually sounded, when I first heard the story, I thought, oh, she was either misled into thinking that this is what this meeting was really about and that somebody else had lied to Don Jr. about what it is, or once I started learning more information, that she got cold feet at the last second and to keep her out of legal trouble, she didn't bring up anything that would be considered espionage.
Because
she could have
faced an espionage.
Yeah, you got to understand, these people from Russia, either they were alive during the Soviet Union or they were told all about it and they know all about it because they live there now and it's part of their history. That would be a little unnerving for somebody like her because it is espionage in her mind.
If you're 40 years old, living and you're 40 years old now, right now, living in Russia, you absolutely would have been consumed with the Cold War.
Oh yeah, you would have known all about the fact that you could disappear and end up in a gulag somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So real quick, at Pink About It, CNN spends 2 years pushing Russian collusion delusion. Plot twist. Neighbor confirms CNN pulled up in van 30 minutes before Roger Stone police raid ever began, proving CNN colluded with the FBI. A felony. We've come full circle.
Yeah, that's interesting. And at first I thought, okay, I don't believe their excuse, but it could be an excuse. Until I found out that the players that we're talking about that made this happen used to work for the FBI. Have you ever used to work in an industry that you're not working in anymore? Good chance, especially with today's technology, with your Facebooks and all that kind of stuff, that you still have a connection. Maybe you're not friends with these people anymore. Maybe you're not going to barbecues with them anymore, but you could reach out to them and have a friendly enough past to where you could say, hey, I think you could do me a solid. to me. I just need one. I haven't talked to you in a while. I don't ask for a lot of favors, but I will owe you if you could, help me out here. Or it could be the FBI that said, how can we maximize the devastation? Because they're the ones that decided to do the pre-dawn raid.
Oh, yeah.
They're the ones that probably said, who can we reach out to? Do we know anybody at CNN? Oh, yeah, my buddy is right over there.
They used to work for us.
Yeah, they used to work for us. We'll bring him on.
And when I say he used to work for the FBI, he worked as a higher head up. He wasn't some nobody.
Okay. So I tend to believe that it wasn't that CNN infiltrated the FBI. I think the FBI, this was a part of the raid, was to make sure that it was live cast on a popular MSN, not so popular, but a well-known mainstream media outlet that will play it all day and maximize. And it's also jury pool tainting too. If they really are trying to convict him, and
here he is right here, Josh Campbell, Special Assistant to the FBI Director James Comey.
Wow. Okay, and he's the one that showed up and said, I just had a hunch. Just seemed like a hunch to me.
Right. Campbell wrote a February 2nd, 2018 op-ed in the New York Times on why he was leaving the FBI, but did not disclose in the article that he was Special Assistant to Comey, nor that he had been offered a lucrative job with CNN. He began working for CNN 3 days later, February 5th, 2018.
Well, right off the bat, if Donald Trump is not personally revoking any kind of security clearances that he has, and the reason I even think that he might have it is because from my conversations with people who either have or currently or formerly had secret security clearances, apparently you keep them after you leave, which just blows my mind to smithereens because of the need to know basis of secret security clearances. But by having one, you can command a lot more money from these mainstream media outlets. So if you can go to them like a CNN and say, well, I was in the FBI for 20 years and I have this top secret security clearance, CNN would pay you much, much more than if it was revoked. I think it's
and the thing with
crazy,
right? And the thing with General Flynn keeping his security clearance, he reported back to his office and said, "Hey, briefing. I'm gonna brief you on my trip to Russia. I've been invited to go to this speech, to listen to people speak. And so I'm going to go there, and whatever I find out, I'm going to report back to you. So these are the dates. This is the time." Yes, he told the government, he told his agency that he left that he is going to Russia. These are the plans, these are the dates, and this is what I'm doing. When he came back, he debriefed the officers of his findings and if anything was amiss and what had happened and what was going on. So he kept his security clearance. You can do those things when you're higher up.
It's almost like a mission.
Right.
Like, hey, they invited me to watch this speech and maybe speak myself. You end up going as an agent because you're collecting whatever you can collect just by observing.
Right.
And then when you get back, you get debriefed. That makes total sense to me.
And you could have found or stumbled upon something intel-wise that we could use here in America for our gain. Mm-hmm. And that is what he did. So when they say that General Flynn did anything wrong, he did almost everything by the book except
talking to the FBI without a lawyer.
Except Peter Strzok's generous invitation to chit-chat.
Yeah, that was really bad.
Walked into his office, Peter Strzok started talking about different awards and different things, and the conversation went from here to there. The FBI, General Flynn. It's just, why not? And then the guy that was with Strzok, his testimony is damning to this whole thing, and why that hasn't been leaked out, I'm curious. But people are saying that one's going to be a big one because he's going to throw everybody under the bus. So we'll see how that comes along. Russia is not going away anytime soon. Don't get excited. Don't get excited. And let them have it. Folks, let them...
They're conspiracy theorists.
Yes, let them bury. I'm talking about digging a hole so deep, let them bury themselves.
It's interesting. I'm hoping if there's any justice in the world. Back in the Red Scare, the second Red Scare, I didn't realize there were two of them, but the second one was with what we call the McCarthy era. That has been so demonized. That whole era was so demonized that most people, if you were to ask them, would say that, oh, yeah, McCarthyism was where McCarthy was falsely accusing all these people of being communists, and finally one day somebody put their foot down and said, hey, this is crap. You shouldn't be falsely accusing all these people of being communists, and then the whole thing went away.
Have you no decency?
At long last, have you no decency? So what's missing in that is that there were communists, and they were discovering people who were communist sympathizers and all that kind of stuff. It's just that not everybody was a communist sympathizer, and so it became demonized. What I'm hoping, if there's any justice in the world, is that one day in the future, people will be able to look back at the we still have sound?
Yeah.
Okay. That people will look back long into the future, back to this era, and say that the whole Russiagate thing was so fake, which, by the way, it is. But the difference between what we look back on the McCarthy era as being a witch hunt actually did produce some results, and then these days
produced witches.
Well, there were people who were communist sympathizers. I mean, my gosh, we had the people, the Rosenbergs or whatever, and Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. They gave away our nuclear secrets to the communists, and that's obviously something that was going to cause a Red Scare, and it did capture communists and whatnot. But that's why that was important. But in hindsight, history is what it is, and you look back on it and you say, "Oh yeah, that was a witch hunt." But this is truly a made-up hoax as an attempt to try to debunk the candidacy or the win of Donald Trump and try to remove him from office and all that kind of stuff. Sorry about the technical difficulties, people. Something happened with the camera, whatever. So we got it now. All right.
So I
didn't realize. How long was it off? Did it just go black?
It just went black, yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Well, because the cord wasn't plugged in.
Oh.
Did you set the camera up this time?
You did.
Oh, you knocked my wires off the box there, and you didn't put them back up.
Oops.
That's all right.
Whatever you can do to blame me.
All right. So Russia ain't going away anytime soon. This is Richard Madcow this week on Russia attempting to destroy America.
And it is like negative 50 degrees in the Dakotas right now. What would happen if Russia killed the power in Fargo today? Right? What would happen if all the natural gas lines that service Sioux Falls just poofed on the coldest day in recent memory, and it wasn't in our power whether or not to turn them back on? I mean, what would you do if you lost heat indefinitely as the act of a foreign power on the same day the temperature in your front yard matched the temperature in Antarctica? I mean, what would you and your family do?
I'd find you to use all that hot air, use all that steam and heat that's coming off your skull because Trump is still president. I'd use all that to warm myself up with.
I could see that.
And then maybe a cup to catch some of those tears that are dropping.
Yeah, you know what would have to
happen?
So
salty.
People have to go out and start cutting trees down and burning them.
Oh, no!
Oh, gosh.
The legalities of that, man.
I know what she's trying to do. She's trying to say that because Donald Trump, since it's our narrative that Donald Trump and Russia are not only very, very close friends, but they're also colluding. And they're not just colluding to help Trump maintain power, but they're also colluding to work together to destroy America through a series of whatever attacks Putin wants to do. There are people who truly believe, based on the propaganda that I've seen, and it's unbelievable that you have to understand that there's crazy people out there. There are crazy people out there, and there are people who believe that for whatever reason, motive doesn't make any sense, but Putin, if he wants something done, if he wants something destroyed in America, or if he wants Donald Trump to give him something, that he calls up Donald Trump and he says, "You make it happen, or else." That's the PP-gate thing where they're like, he's compromised. They're blackmailing him. So they think that.
Hold on. Okay. They're blackmailing Donald Trump because there's a supposed videotape of him and ladies of the night engaging in water sports. And that in itself is enough for Donald Trump to shake in his boots.
And to do anything he asks.
Anything that Putin wants, Trump will do it because
you can't let that PP-gate video get out. That video's got to exist.
But we've all heard the story.
Yeah, and we all know it's completely debunked. And it's not like so that's what they believe. And they believe that if Putin wants to go ahead and attack our entire electrical grid. And by the way, does she ever stop and think about reality? And like literally, you got to stop and walk through. You got to do what we call here at Smith Radio a thought experiment, right? Where you actually walk through the realities, the logistics of what that would look like. So Putin comes along, hacks our power grid, turns everything off, so everybody in the Dakotas ends up freezing to death. Let's say it kills 100,000 people. That's probably going to cause a nuclear retaliation. Probably. Something really bad, or some sort of a major invasion force. So what is she talking about? I mean, it doesn't even make any political sense.
What she's doing is just grandstand. That's all.
I'll tell you what it's like. It's like when you're playing chess and your queen is in a position to take a bishop. And for those of you that don't know anything about chess, the queen is like the most important piece on the king is what you're protecting, but the queen is your most powerful offensive weapon. It just blows every other piece away on the board, so you don't want to lose it. But what she's describing would be like a queen being in position to take a bishop that is protected. So as soon as the queen takes the bishop, the queen gets taken. You get a bishop, they get your queen. That's literally what she's talking about. Why? Because Putin, let's say if he even had the capability of shutting down our electrical grid, why would he sacrifice his queen for a stupid bishop?
He absolutely would not. And real quick, as I promised, the triggering of CNN that Sarah Huckabee Sanders referred to God as choosing Donald Trump.
New tonight, it was God. God wanted Donald Trump to be president. This is according to the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders, who says this in a new interview with the Christian Broadcasting Network. Here she is.
I think God calls all of us to fill different roles at different times, and I think that he wanted Donald Trump to become president, and that's why he's there. And I think he has done a tremendous job in supporting a lot of the things that people of faith really care about.
Out front now, Scott Jennings, former advisor to Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, and Democratic strategist Maria Cardona. Maria, do you think she's right? God, this is what God wanted?
Well, if he did, it's because he wanted to punish us for taking our democracy for granted and for not ensuring that every person went out there to vote. And this is what we got. Look, I listened to the whole excerpt of the interview in terms of what's available. And one huge word jumped out at me, Aaron: hypocrisy. There was so much hypocrisy in what Sarah Sanders talked about. And the bottom line is that I can't imagine that God would put or would want somebody to be the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, somebody who doesn't understand the word truth, the word honesty, the word humility, the word integrity, the word honor, the word forgiveness.
Examples, please.
I mean, I could go on and
She could go on and on
about how this president is actually the antithesis of Jesus Christ's teachings and anything that real Christians would put on the table as something and someone that they would believe in.
No Christians care about your opinion. Christians don't care about your opinion. You're just talking down to us as far as I'm concerned.
Why is it that Donald Trump received the most evangelical vote of any president?
That's an interesting question. That was actually asked of me during the New Right Media Ask Me Anything interview that I did. And, it's an interesting, thing to think about. What was it that caused the most evangelicals to vote for somebody who had an Access Hollywood tape come out about him? It just seems so contradictory.
Us as Christians, we all are flawed, and we know it. We're not the ones judging. It's you. It's you that are judging us.
So Christianity isn't about everybody being Jesus. You got to be Jesus. And if you're not Jesus, if you're not God himself almighty, you're going to hell. Well, no.
Right.
It's more like, okay, we're all fallible human beings. We all sin. We try to monitor and eliminate or curb that as much as possible. But when we do sin, because we will sin, because we're all sinners, we have to ask for forgiveness and just try our hardest to battle those demons. And everybody can relate to that. And you look at what happened to Donald Trump as far as his inability to control himself with the women, or at least so we're told. Let's say you take that at face value and you agree that all the stories are true. A lot of Christians are like, I had that problem too, and I had to battle those demons, but they're smart enough to see the forest for the trees and this is
cheating on your wife. You cheated on your wife. I'm gonna tell you, there are a lot of Christian. I've got Christian parents, and they're divorced. Not you. I mean, your parents aren't Christian, but I mean, like my parents went to church all the time. Like every Sunday, my dad was a deacon in the church, and they divorced over stuff like that. But they're still Christians, and they're forgiven, and we move on. Life goes on.
Could you imagine if your stepmother decided, well, I don't have nothing to do with your dad,
right?
Because he got a divorce. That's a sin.
Well, technically, she got a divorce too.
Okay. So they're all a bunch of sinners. This just proves my point.
One from the Catholic fraction. She's Catholic. She went through a divorce. My dad's a Christian. A Protestant. He went through a divorce.
Well, yeah, Protestants, they're required to get divorced.
Yeah. And so they got together and moved on. Folks, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Talking about
so that's your
Donald Trump.
evangelical explanation, is that a real, true Christian, if I may be so bold to use the no true Scotsman fallacy, you understand the fact that we're all fallible, we're all sinners, and that we will ask for forgiveness, and hopefully we get it from everybody, including God.
All right, so we are at the top of the hour, and let's see. All right, we're going to have to get into the subject that we've been putting off all day.
Oh boy, here we go.
Tough one. We're going to battle through this one. All right, guys. So if you've been watching anything, anywhere in the news at any time, you know that Andrew Cuomo has green-lit. Matter of fact, I think let's let Andrew Cuomo tell you for himself. Do we even have that? Oh yeah, let's let Andrew tell him for himself of what he is doing in New York and how proud they are. This is a clip put together by the Democrats. This is posted on Twitter. And this is what the Democrats are running on 2020.
New York has a proud history of leading the way forward when it comes to women's equality.
New York has always led the fight for women's rights.
We led the women's suffrage movement at Seneca Falls and were the first call for women's equality.
New York legalized abortion in
I
1970.
submit that we have abortion on demand in the state of New York right now.
New York State, among others, already have liberalized abortions. Now the rest of the country must follow suit.
The struggle for women's equality continues to be the fight of our lifetime.
New York is proud to pass the Reproductive Act.
And the other states follow.
Time is now.
Congratulations to both sides.
2019 Justice Agenda.
Justice for who? What are they literally condemning babies to death, and they're calling it justice. They're murdering babies. They're condemning them to death. They're executing them, and they're saying that's justice.
PolitiFact. Just give you a heads up. Don't go there. Ain't no reason to. We go there for you.
Okay.
Just like for the same reason you guys don't go to CNN, we do that for you. We expose it. PolitiFact. New York's abortion on demand. On January 22nd, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo signed abortion legislation that its advocates say codifies Roe v. Wade into law. Right. The Reproductive Health Act, sponsored by Democrat State Senator Liz Krueger.
Why do they call it Reproductive Health Act? I mean, are they? Honestly, an abortion. From what I heard, somebody can fill me in on the details. But everything I've heard about abortion is that it is very harmful to your reproductive system.
Oh, we're going to find out how bad it is for you.
Okay.
So Senator Liz Krueger, not to be confused with Freddie, says that healthcare practitioner may perform an abortion when, according to the practitioner's reasonable and good faith professional judgment based on facts of the patient's case. The patient is within 24 weeks from commencement of the pregnancy, or there is an absence of fetal viability, or the abortion is necessary to protect the patient's life or health. Previously, women in New York could only get abortions after 24 weeks of pregnancy if their lives were threatened, according to Justin Flagg, who's a spokesman for Krueger. They said, under the new law, he said, women can also get an abortion after 24 weeks if their health is threatened or the fetus is viable. Okay, so the whole argument is people are saying that, now you're letting them have an abortion as the baby's head is crowning and it's coming out, or as one senator was pressed, I think it was Krueger was pressed, that he said, so you're telling me if she's going through contractions that you can have an abortion while she's in labor going through contractions? And he pressed her, and she finally said, it's in the bill. It's in the bill.
Yes, she wanted to be allowed. Her bill would allow that, is what she said.
Right. So prior to 24 weeks, which is 6 months. It's almost 6 months. 26 weeks is 6 months.
Wow.
So we're talking, I'm just going to say 6 months, okay? Because it's 6 months.
Because I personally get really confused on weeks because I don't do the math. I mean, I'm a math whiz.
No. We're men.
Well, I mean, I'm a math whiz. I'm a math whiz, and I usually can do these calculations very quickly. But when it comes to, there's 4.5 weeks in a month.
It's just he's 18 weeks old. What?
Yeah, when people do that, I'm just like, unless if you have the child yourself, you live those weeks and you count them every single time, and every single week that comes, you add another week, so you know yourself. But if you just meet a stranger, he's 18 weeks old. It's
or if you're like he's 24 months old. No, man, he's 2 years.
Oh yeah. that kind of stuff. So
I think it wears off by
but yeah, you're right. I think it should be the 24 weeks of pregnancy should be replaced with 6 months, because people know what 6 months is.
Right. So prior to this bill, 24 weeks, 6 months was the cutoff. 6 months is the cutoff. Now that Andrew Cuomo is a communist and related to Cuomo and CNN, Chris Cuomo and CNN, now that he signed this bill into law, you are allowed to now, after 24 weeks, you're allowed to protect your health by
killing somebody.
So, quote, the 2040 Cuomo, quote, with the signing of this bill, we are sending a clear message that whatever happens in Washington, women in New York will always have the fundamental right to control their body.
That seems pretty, ugh.
You're controlling your body.
I don't understand how
it's not your body you're controlling when you kill it. It's the baby's body.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I have the right to control my body. I could start swinging in like a top with my fists out all the way, just spinning. That's controlling my body. But if it punches Brian in the face, that would be considered assault.
No.
I can't go to a court and say, whoa, I should have the right to control my body the way I want. And for him to oppress me, saying I can't swing my fists around, punch him in the face. Hey.
His face hit my hand.
I'm controlling my body.
Yeah, apparently he can't control his face.
Yeah, why was he in my way?
Right.
Brian was obstructing me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the state's Catholic bishops, quote, the law will expand our state's already radically permissive law by empowering more health practitioners to provide abortions and removing all state restrictions on late-term procedures. Late-term procedures, meaning whatever the doctor, and you heard Kruger, not Freddie, Liz, her brother's Freddie, but you heard her say that based on the practitioner's reasonable and good faith professional judgment based on the facts of the patient's case. So if you get yourself a practitioner that's pretty wretched, that's willing to take money.
Well, it says good faith professional judgment, but there's just too much leeway there. And to say the health of the patient, I mean, that's a lot.
Well, you could even say the mental health of the patient, because she's freaking out. She's 17. She's freaking out. She's hysterical because of all the chemicals and the emotions going on at the fact that she's pregnant. She's changed. Her body's completely changing. Her hips are open. This is happening. That's happening. It's insanity. Her dad's upset. Her mom's upset. She feels like killing herself. Let's just
murder the baby.
Let's just get rid of the baby because you don't have anybody to talk to.
I mean, they could just rule it. A doctor could say, "Oh, I murdered that baby for her because it was for the health of the patient."
Yeah, she said she was going to commit suicide.
What? She didn't even have to say that. The threshold is lower than that.
I felt that she could become suicidal.
No, all you have to do is say that it would be better for her mental health.
Okay.
To go ahead and murder this baby.
See, I'm going way too far with it.
Yes!
Oh.
You're going way too far. The threshold is so low. And I guess you don't have that video clip of her actually saying that. I guess not.
Kruger, no.
Well, yeah, she flat out says that it's allowable for somebody to have the abortion basically at birth.
Right.
As the birth is happening, you can also destroy that baby.
So the article, the fake news report PolitiFact article, goes on to say online abortion opponents, that would be us, we cherish life, have crafted many Facebook messages about New York law. One post from January 23rd attacking it by suggesting it allowed murdering babies a minute before they'd otherwise be born. And then they quote the tweet or the face thing, whatever they call that. The tweet is, "I was born at 12:05." Reads the text over a photo of a smiling infant.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that.
"In New York, it is now perfectly legal to murder me at 12:04. This post is not accurate. Though it has been shared more than 5,500 times, it was flagged as part of Facebook's effort to combat false news."
Well, it wasn't flagged. Here's the thing.
And misinformation on its feed.
Well, was it last week that we posted the I've been posting all over the place. Mark Dice had a video where they have this new – Microsoft is teaming up with Facebook where they're going to try to put green check marks or red flags to tell you the accuracy of a certain report. But what Mark Dice and others have proven – Mark Dice wasn't even the one to break
And
this.
it was almost too easy to prove. It's too easy. It was way too easy.
Paul Joseph Watson was the first one to prove it, and then Mark Dice came back a couple of days later and made his own video basically proving the same thing. So he verified everything that Paul Joseph Watson's saying, which is that if it fits the far-left Marxist narrative, they're going to consider it true, even if it's been proven, I'm talking hard evidence, hard proof, false.
The green check mark was given to the article that was written about Cohen, saying that Cohen had dirt on Trump and was going to Mueller. The article had a green check that it was true. But we all know Mueller came out and said, no,
right.
There ain't nothing to that.
That one was not only proven false by evidence, but the one person who could say yes or no whether it's true came out and said, no, it's not true, it's not true. Microsoft, Facebook had the green check next to that. Also, they did the Duke Lacrosse rape case. They went back and there was a green check next to that, even though that was obviously – not only was it false, but millions of dollars were won in lawsuits over that. And on the flip side, and in this case, you saying that it was flagged as not accurate – when we have a video of Liz Krueger saying that her bill allows that very thing. It was meticulously asked very carefully, and she said it.
So PolitiFact says, read more about our partnership with Facebook. So PolitiFact is saying that they're partnering with Facebook.
So PolitiFact and Snopes, we've reported about this a lot.
But now they're officially saying. I mean, this is the first time I've seen that officially. They're partnering with Facebook.
Okay, so either Mark Zuckerberg is a complete blithering idiot, or he's just an evil propagandist,
right.
or he wants to be a propagandist, and he wants to enlist the help of those who have perfected the art to make sure that his platform will contribute to the false messages, because PolitiFact and Snopes, and I know there's at least one other big one, they're fact-checking sites is what they're called. But and I'm not going to take the credit for this. This was originally brought up by Rush Limbaugh, and he was dead on accurate about this. And that is, they are websites designed to support fake news with faux investigation as to whether or not the claims are true or not. So if it's a CNN article or a Washington Post article that's demonstrably false, but they need it to be true, they'll get Snopes to do a little blurb and say, "Is this true? Claim," and they'll have the claim. Washington Post reports blah 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 blah. Is it true? And then they'll even have a meter, like a mostly true, partially true, mostly false, totally false, pants on fire, all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And if it's a message they need to get out there, they're going to always say it's at least partially true or fully true. And on the flip side, they'll call all kinds of true articles by real news networks false, and then they'll use semantics or just goofy things. So just remember, Snopes and PolitiFact and if I can think of the other fact-checking site, they're not actually fact-checking sites. They're called fact-checking sites because it gives the tool necessary for fake news to be able to trick you into thinking that it's been verified.
Right. No, and absolutely not. So this again, as the article for PolitiFact, fake news, goes on and says, is the Post correct that women can get abortions the minute before the baby would be born?
We've already heard it from the horse's mouth.
Oh, but they posed this again to Justin Flagg, the spokesman for Kruger.
The spokesman had to backtrack, huh?
Right. So the spokesman, listen to his listen to the way he, listen to this. Justin called such a situation, that's absurd.
Absurd.
If a healthy baby,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Of course, that's going to be subjective right there.
Yes! Is born at 12:05, the only thing happening at 12:04 is labor. If it is a vaginal birth, the baby's head would be likely to have been crowning for several minutes, and the labor itself would be going on for a few hours, even days. In cesarean delivery, the mother would have been prepped for surgery for some time.
Okay, and I didn't hear the answer. He didn't answer the question.
Why would he?
He didn't answer the question.
I know. That's the whole article. There's nothing more to that article. That's all in. That's it. That's all for PolitiFact.
So did they come up with a conclusion? Is it true or?
Carrie, it's absurd. She'd be crowning if it was a healthy baby.
So PolitiFact didn't say mostly false, totally false. They just put that up there.
Yeah, they put his comment.
But they're ignoring the fact that Liz said, probably under oath, in an official capacity, that it would be allowed for this baby to be aborted if the mother really wanted it to be. Flat out. Right. She said it.
Right.
They're trying to sugarcoat the truth here and paint it as if it was not accurate.
So Jen Villavicencio, an OBGYN, obstetricianist gynecologist,
okay,
in the Midwest,
okay,
somewhere in the Midwest,
somewhere between the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean.
Correct. Near a city by the name of Springfield.
There's like a Springfield in every single state has a Springfield.
This is the article. It's at PolitiFact. This OBGYN in the Midwest who provides abortions said in a statement to PolitiFact that the Post is inaccurate.
Not false, just inaccurate.
Abortions are not performed at 40 weeks on healthy, viable pregnancies. She said overwhelmingly abortions, she didn't give the note, she just said overwhelmingly. Abortions that occur at this point in pregnancy are pregnancies where lethal fetal anomalies have been diagnosed.
Overwhelmingly. She's basically saying that, well, we don't perform abortions on all these people that have births, but they do occur. Overwhelmingly, they don't.
But they do occur.
Yeah, she didn't say never.
Right.
But the point is that if the mother, for whatever reason, gets that point and decides she wants an abortion, it sounds to me like there's a lot of leeway to allow that to happen. Okay. And as Liz Kruger said, it absolutely allows for it.
So this posted by @sun_shine712. She goes by the name Frozen Fran. Which would you choose to protect with right or to protect infant's life? 18 days, a baby heart beats. Well, we now know in Ohio, no thanks to bye-bye Kasich, that Ohio just passed the heartbeat law. So apparently, if you're pregnant for 18 days, there's a heartbeat.
So I'm rereading this just to make sure. So which would you choose to protect the woman's right or protect the infant's life? So one is a right, or that they're saying is a right.
Right. Yeah.
They're claiming is a right. The thing is it's all philosophy. That people need to understand that.
They say you got a right to health care, Carrie.
Right.
You got a right to a minimum livable wage. You've got a right to that.
That just proves a point that rights is a part of philosophy. And a lot of people, I really wish I took philosophy in college. I picked psychology instead. I learned philosophy on an informal basis.
I did
afterwards.
the same thing. I wish I would have taken it too.
Well, it turns out that philosophy is like math. Science, actually. I'll say science. It's a lot more like science, where you try to figure out where the facts and the truth are, and then you just got to hash it out. Like, okay, does this work? Does this not work? And then you end up with some sort of a truth. And but anybody could throw out a thought and say that that's my philosophy. But when you start to examine it and argue it out and have a debate about it, you start to realize, yeah, that shouldn't be a right. It doesn't make sense that it should be a right. Just like I can't start swinging like a top with my fists out and
because
run into Brian.
You call it your right. It's my right to do that.
I control my body. I have a right to control my body.
Well, there was a woman that was trying to argue. I think you told me this story. She was trying to argue her own case to a judge that it was her right to be driving
to travel. She has a right to travel. And
without a license or insurance or something in the case.
Well, she was trying to say that her general right to travel wherever she wants, because without that right, you're effectively incarcerated.
Right. If you're not allowed to travel
if you have
freely.
No right, yeah. Then all of a sudden you're incarcerated. Effectively, essentially. You don't have to be in a jail cell to be incarcerated. If you have no right to travel, that would be the same thing. So she's like, that's why I was driving around, and I don't feel like I need a license because that would restrict my right to go ahead and drive around. Well, what you find out from the judge, who's pretty wise in this case, you can get on a bike, you could ride a horse, you could walk, you could get a piggyback ride. But if you can operate a motor vehicle in my city, you're going to get to go through the steps.
Right. You need to get it, for those of you Hispanic, licencia. You need to get yourself a license.
Yeah. You have a right to travel. You just don't have a right to just jump on a train without a ticket.
Right. There's responsibility, and there is no right to have a license or drive a vehicle. It is a privilege.
There you go.
That comes with responsibilities. That's why they call it a right, because they don't want to be responsible.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's an interesting point. So they try to call things rights to avoid
responsibility.
The red tape that we call responsibility.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. So she tweets out, and this is all these numbers I'm going to throw at you. All these numbers and the actions that the baby experiences with these numbers, none of them are beyond 12 weeks. So
what about 24 weeks?
So double, when I end what I'm going to tell you, double that, and you can still murder the baby
for any reason.
For any reason. After the 24 weeks, you just got to get a doctor to sign off on it, permission slip.
Permission slip from a doctor under the guise that somehow it's going to be risky to your health.
So at 18 days of gestation, a baby's heart beats.
I didn't know it was that soon. That's pretty amazing.
Had no idea. And technology, folks, you've got to trust that technology is exposing these idiots for the evil that they are.
Yeah, I love that. I love that technology is exposing that the whole time. It's not like we're all of a sudden it's become immoral or evil or murder. It always has been, but now we're able to use science to absolutely prove it.
Right. At 42 days, brain waves are detected.
Which, by the way, just because we detect them at 42 days does not mean that they weren't happening way earlier. That's just
we just don't have any ability to detect it or sooner than that.
Right.
Yeah. 52 days, a baby hiccups and yawns. Oh, that's interesting. 8 weeks, all organs are functioning at 8 weeks. That's amazing. So the baby's organs are all functioning at 8 weeks. At 9 weeks, the baby develops fingerprints. So you could now actually fingerprint the baby at 9 weeks and put it in the system. Just saying.
Okay.
At 10 weeks, the baby can feel pain.
Now, that's kind of an interesting statement, because does that really mean that prior to 10 weeks we know that they can't?
We have no way to detect that.
Okay. It says can feel pain. I guess it's proven that as early as 10 weeks they can feel pain. But, I mean, I find it hard to believe that it couldn't be earlier than that.
Right. No, I agree 100%. And at 12 weeks, the baby can smile. At 12 weeks. So functioning organs, fingerprints, pain and pleasure.
And emotions.
Yeah, it can smile.
Which means emotions. Has emotion.
And the heart is beating at 12 weeks. And the prior law in New York was 24 weeks you could murder it. And now it's up until I got no.
It won't be long until, and some people might say, "Oh, you jumped the shark here, Kerry." But how could you not imagine that this couldn't extend on after birth? And in some cases, it's been argued by like a Virginia governor that it can be murdered after birth. So,
all right, you want to play it?
Sure.
All right, folks, I'll just give you a heads up, give you a warning. In about 10 seconds, I'm going to play a video that there's no graphics, nothing visual. There's no visuals.
It's verbal.
It's all verbal. Testifying to Representative Bob Goodlatte, testifying to the Judiciary Committee Chair, Bob Goodlatte out of Virginia. Planned Parenthood medical procedures. This was a former abortion doctor, and he felt compelled to testify, especially after the Virginia governor Northam went full. It's now when you go beyond full, it's you go full potato. So Governor Northam went full potato in his thought process of going ahead and murdering babies, trying to pass that bill in Virginia. So this doctor is now testifying to Representative Goodlatte. Why are you dragging it on, Brian? Because I want to give you time if you got a second. This is only 2 minutes long, but
I told Brian Brian didn't want to play. I said it needs to be played. It needs to be heard, and people need to understand what the true facts of Planned Parenthood and abortion mean.
Yes, I'm playing you something that's factual because the doctor's testifying as to what happens. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Over the course of his career, Dr. Levatino has practiced obstetrics and gynecology in both private and university settings, including as an associate professor of OBGYN at the Albany Medical College. And Dr. Levatino, we'll begin with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. Second trimester D&E abortions perform between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient...
Okay, 14 and 24 weeks. That's after the heartbeat, the organs, the smiling, the emotions. That's after all that.
Today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks. But she's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and a half-inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument. When it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times. Sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations. You just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
You could hear groans of the people. I didn't hear the little extra sound at the end of people groaning in the background, but as he got really graphic there, but I mean, he was describing exactly what he would have to experience and see himself every time he was doing these things. And you just affirmed a woman's right to choose. That's really what it boils down to. The disconnect between what the Democrats are trying to say that they're allowing and what's actually happening. He described what it means to affirm a woman's right to choose in what he described there.
Millennials aren't buying it, Democrats.
Yeah, it's interesting. We may see the end of the American Holocaust in our lifetime thanks to the fact that mainstream media lying, the fake news, has caused this entire generation, not millennials, Generation Z.
Gen Z.
And I'm assuming we all, just to make sure we're all on the same page, Gen Z is the generation after millennials, which would be like my daughter who's in junior high.
Well, yeah, my daughters as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never graphically described this stuff to our daughters. They're not old enough to have that mental capacity, but we have discussed that they want to kill the baby in the womb.
Right. Oh, and my daughter knows 100% that abortion is killing the baby. And but more importantly and more generally is that Generation Z is raised from birth being fully aware and cognizant of fake news and establishment entities that we grew up thinking have a certain level of trust built into it. Right. If a doctor tells you something, if the news tells you something, if a cop tells you something, or if just any kind of if a teacher tells you something, that's a big one. Teacher tells you something, that what they're saying is absolutely fact. They would not only would they not steer you wrong, but they don't know wrong. If they say that they know something, they're telling you what is fact, that they're not telling you a lie. Generation Z is the first one that's grown up from birth knowing that all these places are either openly lying to you or, I mean, these are the places where all the past generations really trusted as an authority of fact. And now my daughter will hear something in the news and be like, that sounds like fake news.
Yeah.
And that's great because there's a lot of things that are going to change, but as far as abortion's concerned, they're going to be skeptical with anything they hear. And if they start off by knowing that abortion is murdering a child or murdering the baby, then when they start to hear this propaganda coming from Planned Parenthood, leftists, CNN, MSNBC.
Or even referring to the baby as a fetus. My daughter's like, fetus?
What's a fetus? That's interesting. I never thought of that, but that's another thing, too.
And they use those terms.
It's a medical term.
And they use them because there's no emotion attached to it.
Right. Fetus is like Latin.
Right.
It literally is like, medical terms. They call things Latin words and stuff like that, but it is.
Well, we saw the turning point in the election campaign where Donald Trump, took his last stance and at the third debate.
Yeah.
And just
he was the first one with the balls. The first one with the balls to bring it up and oppose it with no shame.
No.
And say
no reserve, no shame. Yes.
He got graphic. He got graphic with his description, yes. And he got very forceful with his opposition to it because every Republican, uniparty, rhino, Democrat, all the above, they're like, oh, you do not talk about that. And if you do not tell a woman
third round
that she cannot have full control of her body. Who am I? What kind of misogynist would I have to be to look a woman in the face and say, you can't do that with your body? That was their their rationale.
Well, yeah, that's how they guilted us into believing the same thing.
And I did. I believed that, and it was your brother that actually said, whoa.
You got some say, man.
Yeah, so it turns out we're not just talking about a woman's body. We're also talking about a baby's body.
Right.
So,
and I brought that up about the campaign because I want to just give another shout out to James O'Keefe. Project_Veritas on Twitter.
Yeah, somebody was bringing that up in the comment section.
Okay, well, we're on the same wavelength.
Okay.
Project_Veritas. Not Project Veritas, because ain't nothing there. Project_Veritas. And James O'Keefe on Twitter. This is an undercover video, Planned Parenthood. This is the discussion. And you're like, why did they abort these babies? Why did they do this? Why did they do this? It's been talked about before. I know Glenn Beck had mentioned it years and years ago. James O'Keefe has now confirmed it with undercover video. The selling of the body parts, and in this video, the guy is trying to score massive amounts of cadavers, complete, intact cadavers. That's his goal. It's a fake guy undercover, but his goal is complete cadavers and for research, and they can move their projects forward and discover new things. So here it is.
My side of this, but I'm okay with no. I want you to be paid per specimen, and rather than here, just ship this off. No, this is what we're looking for, and if you can do that, and it compensates you, and financially that's helping you to grow your clinic. I'm willing to do that.
Yeah, and so if we alter our process and we are able to obtain intact fetal cadavers, then we can make it part of the budget that any dissections are this, and splitting the specimens into different shipments is this. I mean, it's all just a matter of line items.
And so what are they? Are they requesting just liver or liver thymus? Liver thymus long bone?
Everything. CNS, brain, kidney, thymus, liver, spleen, femur, bone marrow, hematopoietic stem cells from 14 to 22 weeks of gestation.
They're going to engraft all of those or just the hematopoietic? Percent objectives.
And they want it up to 22 weeks.
Yeah, including CNS, brain. Wow, they want everything. See, so that's the thing. So for a study like that, if we could provide, just a whole cadaver, and then they can take exactly what they want with the full quality, and everything, that is actually going to be ideal for them.
Well, it would make me very happy for us to finish up what we need to do, and I can put you in contact with them.
And their range ranges 14 to 22 weeks is what they're saying.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and I was wrong. They want 120.
120. This is huge.
At the end of the mega clinic's abortion day, the investigators were taken into the abortion clinic pathological laboratory, where the Planned Parenthood team demonstrated the quality of the fetal body parts freshly available. Some viewers may find this content disturbing.
Are there any fresh specimens from today that we can still look at, or?
We had a really long day, and they're all mixed up together in a bag. Yet if I would have known.
Look at her smiling and laughing about body parts mixed up in a bag. It's like
if I'd have known you were coming, I'd have cleaned up a little bit.
Putting a bunch of human bodies into a wood chipper and just having a garbage bag on the other end of it.
Also trending, this is satanic stuff. And for those of you who don't believe in Satan, or you don't like the word Satan, there's a guy that I've listened to a lot, and he's very, very intelligent. He's got a lot of wisdom. Roy, it'll come to me. He refers to it as the dark side, dark side. Being subjected to loneliness, darkness, detachedness, You got to stay away from the dark side. That dark side sucks you. And that woman right there laughing about body parts in a bag, she lives in the dark.
Yeah, she's totally detached from what she's actually doing, the humanity of what she's doing.
Right, and something else that was trending today as well is something called Conscience Protection Act. Conscience Protection Act was also trending as well today. Now, I've got mixed feelings about what this nurse says. Got a little bit of mixed feelings with what she says. She's giving a press conference. And we'll just talk about it afterwards, but I just want to just preface it. The Conscious Protection Act is protecting you if your conscience, your good conscience. Okay. I'm allowed to act on my conscience
kind of like,
without being fired.
Conscientious objector if you're going to go to war and you're like, oh, my religion doesn't allow for war, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Correct. Okay, so here we go.
But the hospital's legal obligation to never force me to participate in an abortion, but to always find a substitute nurse. But she refused. My supervisor insisted that I had to do the abortion, and that if I didn't assist, I would be charged with insubordination and abandoning my patient. My nursing career and ability to care for patients and provide for my family would be over. I'll never forget that day as I watched in horror as the doctor dismembered and removed the baby's bloody limbs. And I had to account for all the pieces. I still have nightmares about that day.
She should sue him.
Which is why I'm here today to ask Congress to pass the Conscience Protection Act so that no other nurses or healthcare professionals are ever forced to go through what I did. I never thought in America that I would be forced to violate my conscience in that way. Please protect conscience rights for healthcare workers. Protecting conscience is essential to our ability to care for and ensure every patient is treated with dignity and respect.
She sounds like she might be like an immigrant. Can you imagine? You grow up in another country and you're like, oh, I want to go to the land of opportunity, the land of freedom, and just the greatest country on earth. And you go, and let's say you just go with your immediate family, but you leave behind all your other your whole rest of your external you go
into healthcare profession because you love taking care of people,
and they have to find out that this is what you went to.
You guys have been on the scopes, you've been on the shows long enough, and Carrie knows me well enough to know. Could you imagine what I would do?
It'd be like going to Germany in 1940, immigrating to Germany, and you end up getting a job at Auschwitz, and you're shoveling Jewish people into ovens and stuff.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, and then you gotta call back your family or write to them and tell them what you're doing, and you're crying, you're upset, but you have no choice because it happened at gunpoint. People are coming to America, and you just saw the video of somebody that had to. That's unbelievable.
Now I absolutely sympathize with her. I mean, I empathize, and yes, absolutely. But I'm telling you right now, and it's because of who I am. It's me. I'm different than she is. I would have taken the chance and I would have said, go to hell.
I see, yeah.
Go to hell. Come at me with I am lawyering up. You can go to hell.
Right, it's tough.
Or even, maybe not even lawyer up. But it's the same thing as if on the job,
I'll tell you who's going to hell is
if the owner,
her boss.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the owner on the job, I mean, this doesn't even compare, but if my boss came to me and took me in the back room and gave me a little package check and said, yeah, you're going to be down with this, okay?
Yeah, at some point.
Or else you're fired.
Or else you're fired, right.
Well, nowadays, he would go to jail.
But that's unbelievable that somebody didn't want to do this did that.
But she was forced to account for all the pieces of the baby? What are we talking talking about, man?
That is a damn good idea, though, to be able to tell every single person in the healthcare industry that if you are pro-life, you cannot be made to do any of this. Now, some are arguing, and it's my understanding that there's a lot of doctors who are totally against this, that are being forced to do it because of Obamacare, because of the laws.
Well, now in this new law in New York, you literally almost are forced to in New York if you're a doctor.
And I'll tell you what, if you're a doctor in New York and if they ever make you perform one single abortion and you're pro-life and you do it and you don't leave the state, God help you. God help you.
You're the one that's got to answer for that, man.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I'm telling you. You only live once. This is your test on this earth.
And as we talk about Christianity, we talk about being Christians. We're not perfect. I'm not. I am far beyond. I'm nowhere near.
You're far beyond perfect. You're that perfect. Go ahead.
It's like being infamous. I'm more than famous.
Oh,
I'm infamous.
Okay.
No, but we've all got our flaws, every one of us. But there's a crossing point. There's this line of just something that just seems so wrong. Mm-hmm. That you couldn't cross, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, just a human being, to go ahead and cross that line and take another's life. I don't care who you are. To take another person's life, crossing that line.
There should be a nationwide strike by doctors and nurses and stuff like that.
Absolutely. So this is the young minds that are coming up today. Would you consider C.J. Pearson a millennial or Gen Z?
He's right on that threshold because he's still very close. Very close. I would
super
probably
young.
say Generation Z.
Okay. So C.J. Pearson, who is making a huge splash, famous in the MAGA movement, if you will, the Trump supporting, a black American supporting Trump movement. And this is what he had to say about abortion.
Hi, guys. I'm C.J. Pearson. It is now a plank in the Democratic Party's platform to allow for abortions to be performed up until the point of birth. Now, guys, not only is this immoral and wrong, but it's blatant and unashamed murder. This issue is personal to me. Personal to me as a black man, because every single day more than 900 black babies are killed due to abortion. Personal to me, because since Roe versus Wade, more than 17 million black babies have been killed due to abortion. And when I think about that number, 17 million, I think about the fact that any one of those babies could have been me. Any one of those babies could have been me. It doesn't bring me comfort knowing that abortion has a very racist history. It was literally embraced by the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, as a means to an end of keeping a check on the black population. And it's a shame to see Democrats not only embracing the racist ideals of the past, but embracing moral depravity and, well, the murder of children.
That's your youth, your up-and-coming youth. Yeah. I'm telling you.
A lot of the generations are kind of defined in a 20-year span. I would say 85 to 2005 birth would be – so he's right on the border of millennial Gen Z, but his mentality would be Gen Z.
Right, so. Right. And for those of you who know me, I was born in 1973. I was born around that era where it was legal to have an abortion. The woman that carried me, the biological mother, she was pregnant at 14, gave birth at 15, and her sister was pregnant at the same time and gave birth within a few weeks. So I have a cousin, if you will. She was an older sister, so she kept her baby. And my biological mother decided to give me up for adoption and not to murder me or to keep me, but to do a selfless act and give me up for adoption. And, you know, you fast forward all these years later, and
you were on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Sure. I mean,
Wow.
well, first off, it was legal in 1970 in New York. And then Roe v. Wade, nationwide, it was legalized nationwide in 1973.
Thanks to New York, because that's where it went up to Roe v. Wade?
Correct.
Okay.
And so
Up the chain.
now New York is now bragging that we lead the world. And we're leading again by giving abortion green lit up until the day of birth.
I've never studied Roe v. Wade very carefully. I've always just listened to what older people who were alive during that time who would have followed it describe it. And it seems like universally lawyers and judges and anybody who talks about it rationally will say it's just horrible decision by the Supreme Court.
Flashback. There's a minute and 20 seconds, so that's good. It's pretty quick, pretty short. ABC did an expose on Roe v. Wade.
Okay.
And interviewed the lady herself.
I know about her, so let's hear it.
She's a huge proponent of life.
Yeah, apparently
she
didn't know that her case was going to go down this way.
Right.
Jane Roe's story was a terrible one. She said she had been gang raped, gotten pregnant, was desperate to get an abortion. That's what everyone believed as long as Jane Roe remained anonymous. When she went public, she told a different story.
You were raped while you were in Georgia?
No, I wasn't.
You were not?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, so all those stories that are in the books and so forth are not true?
Yes, sir. Yes.
They're not true.
Right.
And it turned out that lying wasn't the only embarrassment this darling of the pro-choice forces presented. In her personal treatise published last year, Norma McCorvey told the story of her somewhat sordid life. Then she still adamantly supported abortion. Now she adds that to the list of sins she took with her into the baptismal pool.
I've cheated people out of money. I've sold drugs. I was an abusive alcoholic for many years. I've done a lot against his teachings. But I think the far greater sin that I did was to be the plaintiff in Roe versus Wade.
Wow. That's interesting. One thing I've heard a little bit different version of that she had not known at the time where this was going to go, and that seems to suggest that she was a bad person at the time and has since changed. So that's a little different than what I heard. I'll have to reach out to her and interview her.
Well, if she was, if you say bad person at the time, she could have easily been manipulated by whatever lawyers of the day may be. I mean, think about the lawyers that are arguing for the case that she should absolutely be allowed to murder her child. What type of lawyers are we talking about?
Right. Well,
and they were pro bono. I mean, they're not her lawyers.
Right.
Obviously,
these would be Democrats that are just trying to make sure that there is a system of curbing the black population.
Correct.
That's really the Democrats from day one with the Margaret Sanger Planned Parenthood and all that. If it was the objective to make sure that blacks remain a minority, which is, Democrat Party hates black people. Right. It's been that way from day one, and it continues all the way to this day. And they need to curb the population. Obviously, this would be something that they would dump lots of resources into to make sure remains legal for them to murder black people.
Right, and convince them in inner cities. Well, keep them in inner cities and keep them poor, and keep them uneducated with the uneducated, the Department of Miseducation, and trick them into believing that this is birth control.
Yes, that's it in a nutshell right there. And also,
50% of all black women have some type of STD.
Okay.
There was a number thrown out there. damn, I'm trying to think who told me that. But they were saying that a high rate of sexually transmitted disease, herpes, whatnot, in the female and black community, because of the lack of education, the lack of fathering, the lack of parenting, the breakup of the home.
They're intentionally not educating when they can.
Right. And Candace Owens goes back and says, back to the Great Society, LBJ, literally the beginning of the end for the black family, splitting up the home, and then now you've got the promiscuity just out of just whatever.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of socialists, let's just economically, they're like, no, this is the better way, and then it ends up with the collapse of a country.
Right.
Is it that all roads, what is it?
All roads lead to Rome?
No, paved with good intention. Is it that they thought that they were helping the black community and they didn't know?
LBJ was racist. I mean, they were all racist back then, the Democrats.
Well, the Democrats are racist today.
Right.
Nothing's changed.
So I don't think
nothing's changed with the Democrat Party.
There was no intention to help the black people make a come up.
So you're saying that it was designed.
After the Civil War, it was Republican Christian conservatives that embraced the black slaves.
By the way,
to teach them and raise them up to be better than what the Democrats had resided their fate to be as a slave.
And for decades before the Civil War, it was the abolitionists that ended up leading to the Civil War. And those abolitionists ended up being like the founders of the Republican Party. So, a little history lesson for everybody. It's not like one day Abraham Lincoln woke up and said, let's end this slavery thing. Let's end this slavery thing. No. This is a long decades and decades of abolitionists, which, by the way, Thomas Jefferson, abolitionist. Abolitionists exist for probably long before America was even found.
All right, so let's get on a good note. Let's end this really happy. Guys, pinch yourself. He's still president.
All right.
Setting records in so many different ways. We're setting jobs records. Right now, at this very moment, we have more people working in the United States than at any time in the history of our country. Think of that. That's a big, big statement. I just had a meeting on drug pricing and various other things, and prescription drugs, for the first time in the history of our country, have gone down in 2018. So for last year, just got the numbers, for the first time in the history of our country, prescription drug prices have gone down. They've been like a rocket ship until I got here. And we have more to do. They're going to go down further. But think of that. For the first time, I say it because you guys don't want to report it, but that's a big thing.
That's true.
We will never have a president with the ability to tell them what nobody will say. What they need to hear is that you all won't report this. You all won't report.
Or they'll lie about it. They'll misreport it.
The jobs numbers, Donald Trump tweeted out, best January for Dow in over 30 years. We have by far the strongest economy in the world. Yeah, well, we kind of, if we got a minute and 30 seconds. Okay. So if we cut off the audio at the beginning and at the end, it'll be exactly 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. And then tweeted out, Dow just broke 25,000. Tremendous news at 1:54 p.m., January 30th. Jobs numbers for December 2018 expected to be 150,000. They were 312,000. January 2019 expected to be 157,000. They were 303,000.
I got to warn everybody real quick before we get off. There are people, lots and lots of people, and you need to be aware of this so you can be ready for it and combat it. There are people that believe that our economy really took a hit, and individuals all across America took such a hit during the shutdown that it trickled down to everybody, and that everybody's so poor that they can't go out and purchase consumer items in order to keep the economy going, and it's doing bad because of the shutdown. 800,000 people had, not only did they get paid, they got paid in full. It was just delayed slightly. There are people out there that believe that, and it's because of the propaganda by left, and we need to combat it. We need to talk to these people. Don't be afraid to steer them straight. Tell them that they're wrong for believing that, and tell them why they're wrong and what the truth is.
Oh, man, the fastest 3 hours you're going to spend with anybody, anywhere, at any given time, folks. I'm telling you right here on Smith Radio, Military Veteran Talk Radio. Share this with your friends and your family. Tell everybody about it. And if you are moved, if you feel compelled to do something, and you go to SmithTV.com, donate to Real News Outlet, Real News Media. That's us right here on Smith Radio. Have a blessed week. Check out the scopes throughout the week, and be here next Sunday.
See you guys, and don't forget to share.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.